but it kind of feels like just because we made it through last season, everybody took a deep breath and relaxed and was thinking, okay, now we can make it through this season and it'll be back to normal. And it feels like things are going to be back to normal, but there's still the potential of COVID potentially getting in the way and causing a team to have to miss a game or two, and that's kind of what kind of struck me yesterday is just the importance of you know the teams continuing to take the protocols seriously to hopefully avoid having to postpone a game or cancel a game so that they can get all 12 of their games in. That's kind of what stood out to me the most, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just because we're done with COVID doesn't mean COVID is done with us, and it's still affecting the way we consume sports, and it still is affecting our sports lives. And um, last year, when a game was unable to be played as scheduled because of contact tracing, because of COVID protocols, that game was rescheduled. I mean, Tennessee and Texas A&M played the last game of the season because that game was moved around. There was a lot of games moved around. Tennessee had a couple different bye weeks off time because of scheduling around games being postponed and things like that. But Commissioner Sankey announced that 6 of the conference 14 teams have reached a 80% mark for vaccinations. And he says the number needs to grow, and it needs to grow rapidly. He says we have learned how to manage through a COVID environment, but we do not yet have control of a COVID environment. And you either will play your game. Sankey said that recommended that the conference removes the 53-man roster minimum that was put in place last year. So as long as you have 53 men that was able and ready, you played. If it dropped below that, you was able to postpone that game. And so Sankey is suggesting that, hey, you get rid of that and you just play. And if you are unable to play, then the game will just be canceled. It won't be rescheduled. And so if you are a coach, and we see this play out with in the NCAA baseball championships, being NC State, was unable to advance, and the coach was asked about vaccinations, and so the NC State coach he wanted the guys to be able to make their decisions and not push them towards vaccinations, and that is what I heard Coach Orgeron speak a little bit about. Is it's a hot topic. Can you really push people to have vaccinations, even though it is proven by science to be effective against COVID, not preventing you from getting COVID, but your chances against COVID and chances of spreading it just a lot better. But Sankey and SEC are encouraging, teams to have that 85% vaccination threshold. So that was the biggest news for me yesterday, was the fact that teams could have their games completely just canceled. Not rescheduled, not TBD, but just straight up not play.
That was the point that I was about to make, is that it's even more imperative, in my opinion, that players and coaches follow the COVID protocols this year, because last season, even though it was just a 10-game schedule, you had built-in bye weeks and built-in open dates at the end of the season, in which if you had to postpone a game, you can make it up later in the season. You don't have those built-in weeks this year. I mean, it's not a big deal if a cupcake game gets canceled or I doubt that they would make an effort to reschedule a cupcake game, but it's not a big deal if that type of game gets canceled this year. But if Florida Week rolls around, or say a miracle happens and Tennessee can play in a bowl game if it reaches the 6 win mark and it's late in the season and it needs a win over Kentucky, a win over Vanderbilt to become bowl eligible, and then there's a COVID outbreak with either Tennessee or the opposing team, that game's probably not going to be made up because again, there aren't those built-in open weeks like there were last year to make up these games. So I think it's just as important, if not more important, this year to make sure teams are following the COVID protocols, just so you can prevent games being postponed and canceled even more so. Just because Swain, there's not those built-in open weeks.
That's what I wonder though. Okay, if it's Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and I mean, there's really nothing that's going to affect the SEC championship game. I mean, are they really going to? Oh, excuse me. What if there's a game that does affect the SEC championship game? And do you just cancel it and allow a team that didn't necessarily earn it, same way we had with the College World Series, advance? So let's say Georgia and Florida is, they kind of meet a little bit later in the season, but let's just say their game is the game where it decides which team goes to the SEC championship game. So you just cancel that game. I mean, it sounds good to just cancel it and not go back and do what you did last year, but at what point do you say, yeah, I don't know if we can follow through with what we just what we just said. I don't know. I don't know if we can do that, but
And that would be a tough one to stomach because that game likely determines who wins the East more often than not this season. So that would be a hard one for the SEC to stomach because, I mean, at that point, say that game is really going to be an SEC East championship game. If you have to cancel that, then how do you determine who wins the East?
whew,
I mean, you go by winning percentage. Do you try to find a common date on the schedule later in the year in which you can rearrange some things, both Florida and Georgia? It gets into a real mess because that's one I can guarantee you the SEC will do everything in its power to play, whereas they're not going to do everything in their power to play the Tennessee Vanderbilt game or Vanderbilt whatever game, any Vanderbilt game, if we're being honest.
yeah. I mean, a lot of questions, man, but we did that. We got a little bit of information yesterday, man. We'll get more. I know Greg Sankey probably is going to speak again at the end, but how will you adjust if you head coach of a team, AD, medical staff? How will you adjust? And what's the message going to be to your players? You don't want to force players to do something that they don't believe in, and everyone certainly has that right to not vaccinate, or if they want to be vaccinated, can. But you do have some policies in place from a league level that may affect teams having to cancel games or not. We'll take our first break of the day, live here from Swain Event, Low T Center Studio. Ben McKee, Jason Swain. Be right back.
If you want to get in on the conversation, call the Iris Networks hotline at 865-200-5503. Grow your business with Iris Networks high-speed fiber internet. IrisNetworksUSA.com.
If you're coming to Knoxville and need a place to stay, do yourself a favor and book a room at Hampton Inn Paper Mill, also known as the Hampton on the Hill. This award-winning property is literally in the top 5% of all Hampton Inn properties. The GM, Stephen Lawrence, is a good old local boy who grew up in the business around Knoxville. He and his staff are always available, always willing to help, and will go above and beyond for their guests. The newest Hampton Inn in Knoxville has clean, affordable rooms, flat screens, fridges, and microwaves in every room. Plus, breakfast is included in every rate. Not to mention, there's also a pool and fitness center on site. If it wasn't so close to amazing restaurants, bars, and shopping, you would never want to leave. At only 6 miles from campus, you're still right in where the big orange action is. Go to HamptonInn.com, search Knoxville, and book your room at the Hampton Inn Paper Mill or call 865-693-5400. Guys, your health right now is more important than ever. I recommend Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked. It all starts with the annual wellness exam where they do a comprehensive health assessment exclusively for men, making it quick and easy to take care of your health. And now they offer monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatment. Most insurance is accepted. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment and make your health a priority. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Good morning, Swain Event crew. As the weather heats up, so does our market. And from Johnson City to Knoxville, eager buyers are grabbing up many available properties. The chili is hot in East Tennessee, so if you are ready to buy or sell or want to talk more about our local real estate market, I'm just a phone call away. Or email me at jennifermorris865@gmail.com. And go Vols!
Out-of-town law firms have been swarming into East Tennessee lately. Firms from Memphis, Chattanooga, and Birmingham have stormed into the area. Wouldn't you rather do business with a local law firm? You know, a true neighbor. Marcos Garza and the pros at the Garza Law Firm are just that. They are our neighbors and friends that support local causes year-round. The Garza Law Firm works to serve you professionally on criminal matters, injuries and accident matters, and Social Security and disability filings. The Garza Law Firm is here for you at garzalaw.com. The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
For a replay of each day's Swain Event TV, like us on Facebook.
Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, fueled by Daddy and Barbecue. Jason Swain, Ben McKee. SEC Media Days 2021. Like that, Ben?
I love it.
You rocking over there? Little rock and roll for you this morning.
For a brief second, that's not rock and roll, Swain.
Kinda.
That is metal. that is.
What's the
metal.
difference?
That is.
That's not. There's a difference.
Yes.
What's
there
the
is.
difference?
Rock and roll is actually metal is like unbearable. I don't understand how people listen to full on metal. And then sweet classic roll, man. Come on, there is a difference. You know this.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I like both.
I'm obviously not a big rock guy. I do fancy myself on being versatile on my playlist, but rock is not the genre that is most often present in my playlist or played on my playlist. But there is a difference between metal and classic rock and roll.
Yeah, I got you. Trust me, I'm not versatile in music like I want to be, but I'm open. I mean, I'm open to different genres. It's just that country, man. It's tough. It's tough to get on board with the country. It depends on the song and the moment. But man, it's hard to do country. I can do pretty much anything else though. But
Brendan in Charlotte makes a good point. Metal is like rap, where rock is like R&B.
Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, like I said, I can do all of those. I can do all of those, man. If it's upbeat, get the juices flowing, blood pumping, I'm good, man. I'm good to go.
Metal is just too much. I like the juices flowing and the rock and roll. but the metal that gets my juices going way too much. Like to me, metal is like trying to pump yourself up to go commit a crime. That's what metal is. To me.
Work out.
No, it's not too much. But obviously, everybody has their own flavor. It's just not my flavor.
Absolutely, man, and that's okay, and that's all right. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. 865-255-03. Is LSU getting more of because I was watching SC Network and they were talking to Joey Galloway and Greg McElroy and they went down the teams there in the East and in the West. They talked about Florida, and Greg McElroy seems to think that Florida's going to be they're going to be right there. That probably the most freakish tight end we've seen in the last 25 years in college football, and Kyle Pitts, and then there's speedy wide receiver that was also a first-round pick.
Kadarius
Toney. So much production lost there. I want to start with Florida, man, with you. Like, I seem to think there's going to be a pretty significant drop-off when you lose guys like that.
Yes, I agree. And I don't think Greg McElroy is wrong when he says Florida has talent. It's just a lot of unproven talent. And Swain, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this. To me, there's two different types of unproven talent. There's the young, unproven talent, a D. Beckwith, a Jimmy Holiday, a Jimmy Callaway, a Jalen Hyatt. Like those guys you still have hope for, right? Because they're so young. But then there's the veterans who have talent, who haven't tapped into their talent. I'm not going to list off any examples because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But there are guys who came out as a 4-star, 5-star, and they have great athleticism. They have natural talent, but for whatever reason, they haven't tapped into that talent. So you have those veterans who have talent, and you have the young guys who have talent. Well, I don't have a ton of faith in the veterans who have a ton of talent who haven't done anything, can't get over the hump. Not saying that they can't get over the hump, but to me, it's just if you have to rely on those type of players going into a season, which Florida, in my opinion, is doing, then I don't know how successful you're going to be. Look, Florida's going to hover around the 9.
Yeah, they'll hover around the 9 or 10 mark each and every year, I think, under Dan Mullen. But it's he's brought there to win a championship. He's not just brought there to win 7 or 8 games, or he's just not brought there just to do a little bit better than the previous coach. Like he is brought there to do exactly what he did when he was there as the offensive coordinator, and Urban Meyer was the head coach. That's what he's brought there for, to win a championship. And this team last year had a pretty good chance of doing that for the majority of the season. Last year, Florida was one of the most prolific teams offensively in the country. Kyle Trask went from being a bench warmer to being the best quarterback in the country at times. Like, Kyle Trask was the man. and you just lose him, you just don't just continue on business as usual when you lose great players like that. You still might be good, like Ben was saying before, cut off, but like got him back now. But Ben, like I was kind of finishing your statement there is, yeah, like 9 wins. That's good. That's great. Like I would kill for 9 wins, but Florida, Dan Mullen's he's brought in to win a championship, man. 9 wins is probably not good enough.
No, I don't think so. And as I was saying, I'm not buying Florida in terms of SEC East champs because they are relying on a ton of veterans that do have talent, but they haven't necessarily proven themselves. And I'm fully aware that they could go out there and finally get over the hump and be legitimate stars for Florida. But when you're a redshirt junior, redshirt senior, just a normal senior, and you still haven't really gotten over that hurdle to live up to the hype and expectations that you arrived with, I'm not going to buy into you at this point. I'm going to recognize that you have the ability to be a impactful player, but I'm not going to buy into you in terms of your team winning the East. And to me, that's what Florida's roster is comprised of, especially when you look at the receiver position, and you were touching on it there with Kadarius Toney. Florida loses Trevon Grimes, who is the Ohio State transfer, and they lose Kadarius Toney. That's 108 catches for 1,573 yards and 19 touchdowns. And that's not even taking into consideration Kyle Pitts at the tight end position. And now Florida has to rely on a guy like Jacob Copeland, who Tennessee fans are very familiar with from the recruiting process a couple of years ago, and Justin Shorter, who was a transfer from Penn State. Neither one of those guys, after being practically 5 stars coming out of high school, at least high-level 4 stars, neither one of them have lived up to the hype. And Jacob Copeland's kind of been behind some big-time players there at Florida, whether it be Kadarius Toney or Trevon Grimes or Kyle Pitts. But now it's like his time to take the bull by the horns and lead the show. And I just don't have a ton of faith that he can do that based off of what he has done to this point. So the receivers are iffy. And then you factor in that they have a quarterback that Dan Mullen was very effusive in his praise of yesterday when he spoke with the media, Emory Jones, 4th year in Florida's program, but just hasn't shown enough as a passer for me to buy in to him. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. He's more deadly with his legs than his arms, not arms. Hopefully he doesn't throw with 2 arms. That could be a real problem for a defense. But I don't get the vibe that he's just going to be a passer that defensive coordinators are just going to stay up all night the night before and really worry about. So I'll be curious to see how Emory Jones does as an actual quarterback and not just as an athlete. And in college, you can get away with being more of an athlete than a quarterback. But still, you have an unproven passer with an unproven receiver room. You don't have Kyle Pitts. Your offensive line isn't going to dominate. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they return a bunch of guys who played last year, but they're not a lot of guys who have just been just studs at this level. In fact, several of them have been kind of underwhelming based off of their expectations. So they have talent, but I'm just not buying into Florida being an SEC East type of team because they don't have the elite stars on their team, and I don't think that the guys that will be in key roles for them are going to develop into those key star players that you need to win the East.
And like they still might go out there and be good. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that Florida's not going to be good, that they don't have good players. And we'll talk to David Waters, who, covers Florida, does a great job. But we're going to talk to David Waters from Gators Breakdown at GatorDave_SEC. We'll talk to him here at 9, but I just don't think you just recover and it's business as usual when you lose players like that. Excuse me, like Alabama might be able to do some of those things, and even they have had some years where they still won 90-something% of the games, but didn't go to a championship game or didn't win a championship. Alabama's the only team that can really do that when losing a bunch of talent like that. We saw LSU go out and lose a ton of talent and just drop off the face of the earth. To expect Florida to go and lose 3 first-rounders offensively and just hit the gas as normal, I just don't think that's realistic. You mentioned Jacob Copeland, who was a good talent, but it just seems like there's some concentration issues in his first season or two, maybe some maturity issues, whatever. And who knows, maybe he steps it up. The light cuts on, and he is what many people thought he would be in the SEC. Maybe. But I just have to believe it, see it to believe it with Florida. I think Florida's still going to be the second best team in the division, and I think Georgia has a chance to be the first team and really blow everybody out in the division because they just have so much more talent. But man, yeah, I'm with you, man. Like,
I'm real interested to see how that second team in the East shakes out, because I do think Kentucky can compete to be the second best team in the East, but they have a similar problem as Florida. I'm just not willing to buy into the quarterback position with Kentucky. I think Kentucky is strongly positioned to dominate teams on the ground. They have a really good offensive line returning. They have Chris Rodriguez back at running back, who is the next Benny Snell, and he's already proved himself at this level, and now he's going to be the main guy after A.J. Rose has moved on. So I know Kentucky's going to be able to run the football. I know they're going to be stout on defense, though I question their ability to get after the quarterback. I don't know where their pass rush is going to come from. They have a guy named Josh Paschal, who's like a fifth-year senior. He's been there a while. He's really good, but after him, he doesn't have much behind him. But I still trust Mark Stoops to have his defense ready to go. So you go back to the offense, and although they'll be able to run the football, and they've improved the receiver position, at least at the top. Kentucky used to have no talent at all in its receiver room. Now it at least has 2 SEC caliber guys in Josh Ali, and then we talked about Wan'Dale Robinson yesterday. But again, go back to the quarterback position, I'm really questioning if the quarterback for Kentucky, just the position as a whole, is an SEC-capable starting quarterback, whether it's Will Levis, the transfer from Penn State, Joey Gatewood from Auburn, Bo Allen, who is a redshirt freshman and signed with Kentucky a couple of years ago. I don't know that they have an SEC-caliber starting quarterback, and Will Levis made some plays at Penn State with his legs. I mean, he truly reminds me of Emory Jones at Florida, to where he's a proven playmaker with his legs, although he hasn't done it a ton. But the jury is out on him in terms of being able to throw the football, and that could really hamper Kentucky, in my opinion. That race for the second best team in the East is going to be fascinating. If either of those teams could take Connor Bazelak from Missouri and be the quarterback of their team, I mean, you're looking at a whole different ball club for Florida and Kentucky, a team that could compete with Georgia for the East, in my opinion. But obviously, you can't make trades in college football. So I'll be fascinated to see how that second team plays out.
Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, Fueled by Dead End Barbecue. And, Dan Mullen, of course, he had to show off his shoes yesterday. Had on some weird-looking Jordans with gator colors. Showed those off. That's a SEC Media Day tradition. Ed Orgeron also spoke. Florida, LSU, South Carolina was yesterday. Ed Orgeron spoke about the quarterback competition because it's not just Tennessee that's trying to find out who's going to be the quarterback. I mean, it's other teams as well. We had a ton of guys graduate, go to the NFL, nice group of quarterbacks last year in the SEC, but LSU had a departure, the quarterback position, had a transfer to Auburn, and now it's between two quarterbacks that got some significant playing time last year, and Miles Brennan and Max Johnson. Max Johnson has a ton of upside. Miles Brennan is he's experienced in terms of being in a college, football program. I got a chance to learn from Joe Burrow on that championship-winning team. Max Johnson certainly has the pedigree, son of Super Bowl-winning quarterback Brad Johnson. But Coach Orgeron spoke about what those guys have done so far, and right now it's not enough for any one of these guys to be named a starter over the other. He says no one has pulled ahead of the other. In my opinion, they are starting dead even going into camp, and it's going to be a tight race. Both of them have shown us they can have a lot of success at LSU. There's an open competition. It's tick and tack. One day I see Miles doing better. One day I see Max doing better. No one has pulled ahead of one another. So Tennessee, not the only school with a quarterback battle where the quarterback will be decided on in the fall, right there in fall camp. So we will have on Matt Moscona, 104.5 Baton Rouge there, and at 8:40, he's down in Birmingham, and we'll get his take on LSU, Coach Orgeron's comments, as we continue with SEC Media Day coverage. 865-255-03. We got Attaboy coming up. We have awesome guests coming up. Ben McKee is dialing in from Huntsville, Alabama, as he makes his way down to Birmingham to cover Tennessee. Josh Heupel makes his SEC Media Day debut. And one thing that I noticed yesterday, everyone was talking about what to expect during SEC Media Days. Every coach, what if we had a drinking game, and every time a coach said that they were excited about their team, we took a shot? How far would we make it? Would we make it to the second coach? Would we make it to the third coach? Could we make it the whole entire day? That is the question. Could we make it the whole entire day? I don't think we could. I mean, maybe back in the day I could. Maybe in the younger days I could. But certainly not now. I'm a proud lightweight. Proud lightweight. Can't wait to just have one drink and shut it down. I'm saving my money. Would you be able to make it? To Kentucky, to Mark Stoops. So every time Kirby Smart today says, I'm excited about my football team, I'm excited, you got to take a shot. Could you make it? Could you make it to Kentucky? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. 865-255-03 is our telephone number. We'll take a quick timeout, and we will return here with the Swain Event, fueled by Dead End Barbecue, top 100 barbecue restaurant in America. Jason Swain, Ben McKee. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm Vince Moore, wide receiver, VFL 1991, and you're listening to the Swain Event.
When I made the move to my own studio, I was worried about this. I was worried about that. I was worried about, hey, did I get this piece of equipment? Did I get that piece of equipment? Does that sound good? Does that not sound good? One thing I didn't have to worry about, that was office furniture, because Office Furniture Outfitters met my furniture needs. With a 50,000 square foot facility, they have East Tennessee's largest selection and are the best value for new and used office furniture. Located in Knoxville, it's easy to find everything you need for your new space, including desks, file cabinets, chairs, conference tables, and more. Office Furniture Outfitters is turnkey. They came to my place, we mapped everything out that was needed, they delivered, and get this, set everything up. To learn more about what Office Furniture Outfitters can do for you, log on to ofonox.com. That's ofonox.com.
Top 100 barbecue restaurant Dead End Barbecue is a no-brainer when you are craving the smoky flavor of quality Q. Dead End makes it easy to enjoy their fantastic menu with online ordering from Chow Now for pickup. Or if you don't feel like leaving the house, then have Dead End Barbecue delivered right to your door by Loco Knoxville or Bite Squad. Cheer on your favorite team with the best barbecue around. Check them out online at deadendbbq.com. Dead End Barbecue. The search is over.
JC's Tree and Landscaping Service specializes in quality tree work done at an affordable price. Trimming and removing trees are their specialty. They also offer other services like land clearing, stump grinding, crane services, and all of your basic landscaping needs for both commercial and residential. JC's will give you a free estimate and beat any written quote by a competitor to guarantee that you get the lowest price around. Don't risk your land with a fly-by-night service. JC's Tree and Landscaping is licensed and insured. Give them a call at 865-599-3799. Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, fueled by Dead End Barbecue, top 100 barbecue restaurant in America. 865-255-03. Hey, Andy. They're on the Irish Networks hotline, but we lost them. So give us a call back, Andy. 865-255-03. I mean, this is the Around the SEC theme music here on the Swain Event. Listen, it's SEC Media Days. The whole show is about the SEC. Josh Heupel. Today, Velus Jones, Alontae Taylor. I don't think you have two guys better representing the University of Tennessee. Alontae Taylor's been doing it for years. Velus Jones, new to town, so to speak, being here in his second season. But I mean, he's already proven that he's one of the guys that leads by example. Knows how to carry himself, very, very mature. Not going to say anything that's going to embarrass himself or put his teammates or team in a bad position. So he is prepped. He is ready. I'm looking forward to seeing how our guys represent Tennessee today. But Georgia starts off the day. Kirby Smart, JT Daniels, defensive player Jordan Davis, and Kentucky next with Darian Kennard, Josh Paschal, and Ole Miss is after that. Lane Kiffin, Matt Corral, Jalen Jones. And Tennessee, you'll be the last team of the day. Like I just mentioned, Velus Jones and Alontae Taylor. 865-255-03 is our telephone number. Quarterbacks. Not a lot of quarterbacks traveling to Birmingham. But the teams that do have established quarterbacks, I think those are the teams that will have a better chance of winning, a better chance of success. Doesn't mean you can't be successful. LSU can't be successful. They can. One of the two guys competing for the job, Miles Brennan and Max Johnson. One could just take the bull by its horns and just take over and be the quarterback. Be the quarterback for that football program and go win a bunch of games. But when you look at this list of representatives from each team, there's not a lot of quarterbacks. We mentioned this yesterday. Last year was a good year for the position, but this year just a little bit different. It's a little bit different. A&M replacing quarterback. Alabama's replacing a quarterback. Florida's replacing a quarterback. Arkansas replacing a senior quarterback. It's crazy to think about Bo Nix being the vet. Bo Nix is the vet. Wasn't too long ago when Bo Nix made his college football debut versus Oregon, Ben. And now Bo Nix is getting Milo's sweet tea deals, and he's the vet. Time is flying, but not a lot of vets returning in the SEC. But we may see a little bit of a sprinkle of SEC football from 6, 7, 10 years ago, where you let your defense in the running game bring the quarterback along more now than we have in the last 10 years. But, Ben? It's a different year for quarterbacks, my friend. It's a different year.
In the league this year that rely on a running game and try to take the pressure off of the quarterback, two teams we just talked about. I think that's what Kentucky and Florida is really going to try to do. I mentioned Chris Rodriguez at Kentucky and their offensive line. Florida has a stable of backs as well, and Dan Mullen's going to want to use Emory Jones's legs more than his arm. And again, Florida does have some really nice backs in its backfield. Lorenzo Lingard, the former Miami transfer. DeMarcus Bowman, the Clemson transfer that is a former 5-star, big-time player coming out of high school. They'll look to get him involved. Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, some veterans that they have. So Tennessee, I think Tennessee is going to have to follow that same method as well, regardless of who wins the quarterback job, whether it's Joe Milton or Harrison Bailey or your boy Brian Maurer, wink, wink.
Hey man, I ain't got no problem with Brian Maurer. I just don't think he's going to be the quarterback.
No, I'm with you. Or whether it's Hendon Hooker, Tennessee's going to rely on its run game more than its pass game, in my opinion, just because I think the running game is set up for more success than the passing game. Even though Jabari Small hasn't been the guy and Tyon Evans hasn't been the guy at this level, I do think Tennessee has a couple of backs that can produce at this level with Tyon and Jabari and Jalen Wright. I think he'll have somewhat of an impact as a true freshman. Throw D. Beckwith in there. And the offensive line is going to be solid, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be great. I think great defensive lines will overpower Tennessee's offensive line. But how many great defensive lines are there in the SEC? There's really only two on the schedule, Alabama and Georgia, that will just, on paper, thoroughly dominate Tennessee. But other than that, Tennessee can be really solid up front and open up some holes for the running game. So I even think Tennessee's going to really rely on the running game to take pressure off of its unproven quarterback. Because in my opinion, Swain, there isn't a bona fide, trustworthy quarterback coming back, a proven quarterback coming back. I mean, you have JT Daniels, but he hasn't done a ton to necessarily establish himself as the next great SEC quarterback that many people are touting him to be. And I think he'll have a good year. But, again, he hasn't proven it to this point. Connor Bazelak, I've spoken about how I like Connor Bazelak, but he hasn't proven it. So, to me, there's not a single quarterback in the SEC that has proven themselves.
Going to the text box this morning, the Benz 84, let me know if that's okay. It's a little bit better. Tennessee Tiger says it's going to be Max Johnson. She's an LSU fan, and she's willing to put some barbecue on it, Ben. She's willing to bet some barbecue on it. So, yeah, I think if both are even, and this is the old adage as a coach, when you have two guys and both are the same, it's best to just go with the younger player. Best to go with the younger player. So, Andy, give us a call back, man. We'll get you straight in because today I am the host and the producer. Ben is covering the SEC Media Day. So, give us a call as soon as I see the light blinking. We just patch you straight on in. So, working some double and triple and quadruple duty today, and then we'll have our guy Brad in here tomorrow and later on this week to produce. But today, man, I'm pushing the 1, 2, 3s and the 4s. But let me know, Depends, if that's okay. But yeah, Andy, give us a call back. We'll just throw you right on in, get in on the conversation. But Tennessee Tigers thinks it's going to be Max Johnson. And, yeah, if you got two quarterbacks, two players, they're both the same. No one is pushing over the other. One is a junior, one is a freshman, one's a senior, one's a sophomore. It's just best to go with the younger player. Just best to go with them.
I'll be curious to see if LSU bounces back from last year's debacle. Had to make a lot of coaching changes this offseason, particularly with Bo Pelini. The Bo Pelini experiment did not work well. So I'll be curious to see if LSU can get back on track because that's another team like we were talking about earlier. You know they have talent, but is that talent going to be, I guess, used properly is the correct way to say it. And then their quarterback position did hold them back last year. And they didn't have that elite running back that we had seen at LSU the previous seasons. They didn't have that Darius Geis, that Leonard Fournette, that type of back. So I'll be curious to see if LSU can bounce back from last year's debacle because it was truly a debacle when you look at the Bo Pelini experiment and just the on the field play from some players as well. Because I'm so curious about that, Swain, because I mean people are just writing it in pen that they're going to bounce back. I've seen a lot of second place predictions, third place predictions, and I mean, I tell you what, I like that team out in College Station more than I like the team in Baton Rouge.
I'm trying to think. There was someone who actually picked LSU to win the West.
I know this is crazy to say.
Yeah, I'm trying. We gotta run the break. We gotta run the break, Ben. I'm trying to figure out who it was that said that. There was somebody that did say it. 865-255-03. Ben, go ahead, man. Go ahead and finish your statement. You know, we on the same audio there.
No, yeah, I heard the outro. I was just going to say real quick that I know Coach O won the national championship 2 years ago, but I don't trust Coach O. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah,
so, I find it hard to believe somebody picked him to win the West.
Yeah, I don't know if and that's crazy, man. You should be able to trust a coach that basically had one of the best college football seasons of all time. But you look at his surrounding cast, and maybe they won in spite of him, and maybe not because of him. But how can you even say that? Because he gets, he's saying it like he doesn't get credit. He gets credit because he let guys do their job. Like, he let guys do their job. He helped with the culture. So, it's weird, though. But no, I'm with you, man. It's almost like he has to prove himself all over again. 865-255-03 is our telephone number. We will take a quick timeout and a top of the hour break and then come back on the other side. Ben McKee, Jason Swain here. live from the Low T Center studio. I am. Hour one was brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Swain Event. Be right back.
At work? Can't call in? Don't feel bad. You can talk to the guys on the text box. It's part of the free Swain Event app.
It's a new season, which means it's time to rep your team in new ways with gear from Game Time Sidekicks. Rep the Vols with every sip with a new tie-dye tumbler or bottle. They also have a new NFL Players Association product line, so you can support your favorite VFL on Sundays. Want to put your own flair on a tumbler? Game Time Sidekicks has you covered with options to add your own text or even a monogram on the back of your favorite team tumbler. To check out everything that Game Time Sidekicks has to offer, go to GameTimeSidekicks.com. Carry your team with Game Time Sidekicks. Top 100 barbecue restaurant Dead End Barbecue is a no-brainer when you are craving the smoky flavor of quality Q. Dead End makes it easy to enjoy their fantastic menu with online ordering from Chow Now for pickup. Or if you don't feel like leaving the house, then have Dead End Barbecue delivered right to your door by Loco Knoxville or Bite Squad. Cheer on your favorite team with the best barbecue around. Check them out online at deadendbbq.com. Dead End Barbecue. The search is over. More and more Tennessee businesses are switching to Iris Networks for reliable, local, high-quality, high-speed business fiber internet. Iris provides direct internet access from 10 megs to 10 gigs with no payments for 90 days. Iris also offers next-generation business phones with work from anywhere capability from the mobile or laptop app. With local sales, support, and service, Iris is a partner in the community. Learn more at irisnetworkusa.com or call 865-448-IRIS. Iris Networks, a Tennessee business connecting Tennessee businesses.
Good morning, Swain Event crew. As the weather heats up, so does our market, and from Johnson City to Knoxville, eager buyers are grabbing up many available properties. The chili is hot in East Tennessee, so if you are ready to buy or sell or want to talk more about our local real estate market, I'm just a phone call away. Or email me at jennifermorris865@gmail.com. And go Vols!
I just wanted to come by and congratulate you on the great work you've been doing.
I like your style. You remind me of a young me.
Failure is not an option.
That boy is good.
For internet from Iris Networks. Find business solutions for you at irisnetworksusa.com.
Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, fueled by Dead End Barbecue. Time for Attaboy, where we highlight positivity. Attaboy is brought to you by Iris Networks. 90 days, no payment for business internet. Reliable, high quality, great customer service. Fiber internet and voice. Go to their website at irisnetworksusa.com. And, man, this Attaboy, it really goes to us. I mean, it goes to everybody. Everyone gets a trophy in this one. Everyone gets a trophy. Because we all win here. But you can give attaboy to these two gentlemen. Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. They're going to headline an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast. Really, it's us. We get the attaboys. We get the attagirls because we get a chance to witness this. Former NFL quarterbacks Peyton Manning and Eli Manning will take part in an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast over the next 3 seasons. ESPN announced on yesterday the Monday Night Football megacast will air on ESPN2 for 10 games in each of the next 3 seasons and will include current and former NFL players and celebrities joining the Manning brothers on the podcast. A host has not been named. Guys. Ben. Oh my goodness, Ben. This is it, my friend. This is it.
Yes,
This is
I
the
am.
move right here.
It is. I'm a big fan of this move. Give me all the Peyton and Eli content possible. I don't know if anybody out there has watched the detailed series on ESPN that Peyton did, but he just breaks down the game at a very high level. He could be Tony Romo, if not better, if he wanted to.
If he wanted
If
to.
he wanted to. I could listen to Peyton break down football, not even just break it down from an X's and O's standpoint, just talk about it and talk about the game, because he's so entertaining on top of being able to break down the game so well for the common folk that he's just awesome. And give me all the Peyton Manning content possible. And then Eli is enjoyable to listen to as well. And then you get them both together, and it's must watch entertainment in my opinion. So give me all the Peyton and Eli content possible. I'll definitely be one who keeps up with this during football season.
Yeah. You do realize what's about to happen, right?
Peyton's about to get snatched up, or more people are going to watch their broadcast than the actual broadcast.
More people are going to watch the Manning broadcast than the actual broadcast.
We need to get Archie on there.
I mean, might as well. He said. Well, the article says that they're going to have former players on too. Last time I checked, Archie Manning was a former player. They didn't say it was not going to be the Manning's father. So technically, it opens it up for Archie Manning to be a part of it, and I'll be surprised if he doesn't make an appearance. But yo, this is it. This is exactly what you said. First thing I thought of was, okay, this is potentially going to have more people watching than the regular broadcast. Or if not, there'll be less people complaining about the Manning broadcast than the current broadcast, because everyone has been complaining the last couple of years. You've had Jason Witten, you've had Boogie McFarland, you've had different folks, Brian Greasy, Louis Riddick. And so you've had this turnstile of color commentators ever since John Gruden decided to go back and coach in the NFL. So this is also one step closer to Peyton Manning just taking over Monday Night Football altogether. This is one step closer to him being, like you just mentioned, if he wanted to be Tony Romo, he could, but this is one step closer to him actually being Tony Romo. And being just as good, if not better, because Tony Romo is damn good. Like,
yes,
Tony
I
is great.
I'm with you. I could listen to Tony talk football all day long, and some people don't like that he calls the plays ahead of times. I like it. I think it's remarkable. It's no different to me than watching a Major League Baseball broadcast and the color analyst calling what pitch is about to come next. Them asking, okay, what pitch would you throw here? Well, I'd go slider away. Well, here comes a slider away, and he strikes out on it. To me, it's no different than Tony Romo saying that he's going to run to the left side of the field right here, or run between the tackles, or whatever he may say. Tony Romo's awesome. That. No, that's a Twitter complaint that I've seen often. People don't like the that he predicts the play calls ahead of time.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it because, I like to know what he is thinking. And if he never tells us, then we don't know. So I like to know what he's thinking pre-snap based on the alignment of the defense, down and distance, situation. Like, I want to know what he's thinking, because to be an NFL quarterback, you got to be very, very smart. And you got to be 2-3 steps ahead. So I like it. He doesn't do it every single play, but he does do it. And it would be one thing if he had a play sheet from both sides. That would be annoying, right? But no coach is going to give up their play sheet. They're paranoid. They're not going to give that up. So hearing him kind of forecast what is about to happen based on alignment, based on down distance, based on situation, I think it's what separates him and sets him apart from everybody else. Big Bad Voodoo Nate says Cooper Manning needs to host that, so let the brother host it. That'll be great. Chat Vol says, with Horton seemingly leaning Miami. If Tennessee doesn't land him, who becomes the next target at wide receiver, or would they be comfortable with only taking 2 this class with White and Miller? Squirrel White and Cam Miller. And that's a recruiting question. I think Tennessee is always been in a good spot with Horton.
Was in a good spot with Isaiah Horton.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I don't think. Golly, man. I don't think Tennessee's gonna be crying over Isaiah Horton going to Miami. If that is exactly what's going to happen, I think Tennessee is going to be okay. This was a drastic change of events because everything was leaning towards Isaiah Horton being a Tennessee Volunteer. But just like the win, recruiting changes. And I'm good, Ben. I don't want to sit here and make it seem like it's not a huge deal, but I also don't want to make it seem like that the sky's falling. I think Tennessee would have been good if they got him committed. But, from a speed standpoint, I think they want to get a little faster. And I don't think Horton is the fastest. He's a dang good football player, but I think Tennessee wants faster at that position. So I've tippy-toed as enough as I could, Ben. I'll let you get in there and dance a little bit too.
No, you said it perfectly. That leads me to a different conversation that I'll bring up here in a second. First, I want to address the question, kind of which receivers would Tennessee turn to if Isaiah Horton does indeed pick Miami, which it looks like it is trending in that direction. Elick Ayumaner, I hope I said his name correctly. That is the receiver that moves to the top of the board. And he's an interesting prospect, one very similar to Josh Palmer. He's from Canada, from Alberta, Canada, and moved to the United States in 2019. And he did that in hopes of playing major college football. He's now at Deerfield Academy in Deerfield, Massachusetts, and he's very athletic, extremely athletic, but his high school football season was canceled last year. So there's just not a ton of tape on him. There's a couple of inter-squad scrimmages that you can YouTube, and you see the freakish athleticism. It's just that he hasn't played high-level competition. B, he's barely played football. So he's kind of like the next Josh Palmer, and he has the athleticism to be the next Josh Palmer. And that Tennessee's in a good spot there. He took 5 official visits last month. He visited Stanford, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Cal. Those were the 5 that he took official visits to last week. So that's the name to keep an eye on. Elick Ayumaner is the top of the receiver board with it looking like Isaiah Horton going to Miami. Caden Pope, the cousin of Latrell Bumpus, he's down in Hardin County in Savannah, Tennessee. He's also on the board. I think Tennessee would like to get him in their boat, but he's just kind of taking his time during the recruiting process, and Auburn is trying to sneak in. So as of right now, those are the 2 names to keep an eye on. Barryon Brown, he goes to Pearl Kona in Nashville. We talked about him a week or so ago. Real good friends with Ty Simpson, so it looks like he's Alabama bound. Shalik Knotts is a receiver from North Carolina that took an official visit to Tennessee. I don't know how serious he is about Tennessee. He did say it's down to North Carolina, Maryland, and Tennessee. That was at the time of his visit at the end of June, or the weekend of June 18th. Hard to believe, in my opinion, that a North Carolina native doesn't go to North Carolina, especially when he's one of the top prospects from North Carolina. So those are the names right now that are kind of on Tennessee's receiver board. I'm sure they're in the process of evaluating some other names that they may want to go after. But the conversation that I wanted to bring up, Swain, about Isaiah Horton, if he does indeed go to Miami, is you mentioned the knock on Isaiah Horton being his speed, and it is. But he's still a really good football player.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really worth it, giving Tennessee's current predicament, to pass up on a good receiver just because he's not the fastest guy in the world? And also, let's remember what high school he plays football at, Oakland High School there in the mid-state, that turns out 4- and 5-star prospects every single year. Every year they have multiple high-level Division I football recruits. So I guess kind of a two-part question for you. Is Tennessee really in a position to where they can be that picky with a good football player where speed maybe turns them off a smidge, which allows Miami to come in and recruit him harder, and then also kind of dealing with that while also recognizing that next year or the year after, Oakland's going to have more football players that you want?
Ooh, boy, it's a tough position to be in, man. Because you're in the business of winning football games, right? Like that's what you're in the business for. That's what you're hired to do. That's what you're brought in to do, is to win football games. In order to win football games, you need the best players that you think you need to go and win based on your system and your philosophies. And if a player doesn't match what you're trying to do, then you shouldn't bring him in, right? But you also want to have great relationships with people inside of the state, and especially the best high schools in the state. And Oakland High School is one of the best football programs in this state. You want to have good relationships. And this is the issue that previous coaches have had, where they're getting paid a lot of money to win at a high level. Tennessee's always recruited outside of the SEC footprint, but they, there's not an SEC team in Charlotte or North Carolina. But you have South Carolina that pulls, kids from that Charlotte area, is right down the road. But the in-state recruiting, it is what it is. It's not fertile like Florida and Georgia. So you got to compete against those schools who do have recruiting fertile grounds. But then you also want to put a border around your state when you do have players that are worthy enough to play at the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Clemsons of the world. So it almost feels like, man, you got to take some of the players that maybe you don't necessarily think that you can compete with Georgia and Alabama and Florida with, because you want to maintain good relationships. I think it's just really important just to be honest. To be honest up front and do it the right way, and don't lead somebody on for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden, late in the process, be like, hey, we don't want you. I don't think it's gonna be a good fit, because then that can ruffle feathers. If you are Oakland, if I'm a high school coach at a top program, and I have a player that I think is damn good, I know they can play at the next level and play big time football, but the in-state school, they just don't need that type of player. And I'm just speaking in general here. Your skill set just doesn't match what they want to do. You got one of the best corners in the country, but he's 5'9". The in-state school prefers guys who are over 6'1". You got the in-state school that prefers fast receivers. Good football player, but a little bit more of a possession receiver. Or you got a quarterback who is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country, but more of a runner than a passer, but you have the in-state school that uses a traditional drop back. Do you just take kids just to take them? Because doing that, you're basically selling yourself short, wasting a number or scholarship on a player that you don't really feel head over heels about. You're just doing it because you have to, because of optics. So if we just do things because of optics, at some point, it's going to bite you in the butt. And that feels a little bit of what Butch Jones did. It's when you do things just because it looks good, or you get this player because he was rated a 5-star or a high 4-star. But you know you're watching the film, and you know he doesn't fit what you do. But because he's rated a high 4-star, it looks good, and people are excited for that month or those 6 months or those 8 months that kid was committed. The truth is, people are going to find out when the kid gets to campus if he can play or not. And if he can't play, then it's going to look bad on you anyways for taking that kid, even though he was a 4-star. So the truth is going to come out eventually, Ben. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yep.
In this situation.
No, and that is, who knows how it'll play out. Unfortunately, we won't know the answer until 2 to 3 years down the road. But right now, I'll give the staff credit for exactly that, for not buying into the recruiting rankings or just to take somebody just to take somebody. And really, I shouldn't mention the recruiting rankings because they don't pay attention to the recruiting rankings. So I should not have mentioned that. But my point is that he is a high-level prospect in the state of Tennessee, and they didn't just take him just to take him because he's a high-level prospect in the state of Tennessee. I honestly will tip my hat to them for that, because your point about Butch Jones rings so true. We all know the big-time offensive tackle from Memphis that came to Tennessee and did not work out, and the entire coaching staff was not sold on that player. But Butch Jones didn't want to lose out on that player because of perception in recruiting. So I'll tip my hat in that direction, but I really hope that this doesn't come back to bite Tennessee in the butt, because Isaiah Horton has the ability to be a really, really good football player. And I hope that this doesn't – I just hope that this doesn't come back to bite them in the butt, because there's real potential here, because he may lack some top-end speed, but he has the potential to be a really good football player. And at this point, to me – and you can speak to this more than I can because you played the position and played college football, but like if you're surrounding him with Squirrel White and Jalen Hyatt and these other receivers that can run, what's wrong with having a possession receiver? What's wrong with having one guy that just because he doesn't run, he's just as good as the rest of them, just in different ways? That's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, Juwan Jennings couldn't run, and he was an efficient player. Now, we know why Juwan was good, because he had that dog in him, and it's hard to replicate that type of dog in somebody. But I just hope that this doesn't come back to bite Tennessee in the butt, because I don't know how much of a deterrent the speed should be if he's a really good football player and you're bringing in speed around him. It's not like you're not bringing in speed already. That's the thing. It's not like you're actively searching for speed. You always want more speed, but he's going to be surrounded by speed. So that's kind of my thought process.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you run offensively, man. Because when you have a player that lacks speed, there's only a certain amount of things he can run. And I'm sorry, like, there's only how many Juwan Jennings have we seen at the University of Tennessee in the last 10, 15 years?
None. Him.
At wide receiver. Like, I mean, so to expect someone to be like Juwan Jennings just because they don't have speed, that's a tall task. Juwan Jennings comes once every decade or two. He's special. He's different. And so when you don't have a certain amount of speed at the wide receiver position, it just limits you. it limits you so much of what you want to do. Like, and you are predictable as a defender. You looking at a guy and you know he can't run past you, like you know it. So now it eliminates post route, go route. So I know, all right, there's only a few things he can run: curl routes, slant routes, digs, outs, comebacks, and you sitting on everything. And when you do that, it puts a lot of pressure on the offensive coordinator because you can't run the football the way you want to because there's maybe another guy in the box. So what I'm trying to say is at some point you kind of have to trust the dude that put up crazy offensive numbers and has success offensively for the last half decade or more. I understand what you're saying. I mean, obviously he's a good football player. He wouldn't be in this position to be recruited by many Division I, SEC, top level programs. But at the same time, you know what you want, and you know what you need. You know what you want, you know what you need, and you got to believe in what you're trying to do offensively. And the way it looks, Ben, it looks like Josh Heupel is trying to really stretch defenses, and you can't stretch defenses with guys that run 4.6s. You just can't. You got to have guys that can run. Simple.
That's a really good point.
Simple as that, man. You just have to, and you may take a little bit of heat from critics who think you should get every in-state player. But you got to believe in what you're doing. Let's get to the phones, and who we got there? Good morning. Good morning. Who we got? Hello.
Hello.
Hey, you're on.
Hey, man. How you doing?
We good, man.
Vol Nation, man.
Yeah. Good morning, Vol Nation.
All right, you just a little low in the thing. I could barely hear you. I wasn't sure you were talking to me or not.
Now I'm producing, so I couldn't answer the phone and do all the pleasantries with you. So I just had to get you on this morning. So good morning, man.
No problem.
Thank you for calling.
Hey, man, no problem. Enjoying the show as usual, man. Just want to get in on a quick conversation. Won't hold y'all too long, but one, I'm excited about the season this year. I'm ready to see football, see the stadiums full again. We already got tickets for game one. Miss Vol Nation is ready to get back to some tailgating and some good food. So excited to be able to get that started again and to see all that again and the pleasantries and just everything that goes along with the football season. But I'm also very interested in what you guys were talking about earlier as far as the second place run pertaining to the East Division. I think with the losses that Florida took at quarterback and wide receiver and with Pitts gone, and there's so much going on. If you listen to Dan Mullins, he seemed very uncomfortable in answering and addressing the question posing to his identity of this coming season. And I think really it is really wide open when you look at that second place, because we don't know what each team is going to bring this year because there are so many question marks. And so with that being said, also excited about what Coach Hype is going to say today. I don't know, like you mentioned the other day, whether he's going to be very kind of reserved and give you some coach talk or whether he's going to open up a little bit, and which one is better than the other, I have no idea. But I am excited to kind of, once again, getting the season together and this being the first steps toward to the 2021 season. Being able to hear from our head football coach and in his first media days in the SEC, I think that's awesome. There is something that I wanted to just make a statement on that's a little bit more serious, I guess, just being a medical professional. I saw Sankey, he did mention, and I think it's important that they're creating a standard pertaining to these teams, and he kind of gave a warning for everybody to, hey, you don't have to get vaccinated, but, we're trying to be safe. We're trying to have a football season, and these are the precautions that need to be taking place. And I think that's significant for any organization to create these standards needed in order for everybody to understand what needs to be done to protect everybody and to go out there. Totally get that. but also as a medical professional, I wish that also in the context of how they're doing things, I don't necessarily like the pressure that is being put on, even though I understand it, the pressure that is being put on these 18 to 21-year-olds to go out there and become vaccinated, because if they don't, it could impact their team. Just being truthful as a parent of an athlete that went out there and won 3 championships and became the greatest 100-meter hurdler in the conference that they've ever had. If she was pressured to have that vaccine, I'm not sure if she'd been running, just because of our particular beliefs and things of that nature, and because of the uncertainties. There's so many things that we don't know. There is a difference between being FDA approved and FDA emergency approved. Emergency approved just means that it's experimental, and the FDA does not want to be responsible for it. They don't want to get sued, neither does the government. So, you got this clause out there: if something happens, don't come after us. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference, and that's a huge difference, which is why when you look at the vaccines, the CDC, which we go by, has this VAERS system, and that's the Vaccine Adverse Reaction System. And they go, and doctors are mandated to put any type of adverse reaction, whether it's thrombosis, whether it's anaphylactic, or whatever it may be, in that system. So that way, people kind of understand, hey, and they have a communication system of this is what's going on with this vaccine. And so we talk about all of these numbers about, how many people have been vaccinated, how many people have, unfortunately died from the virus, how many people have been impacted by the virus. But we don't talk about how many people have been impacted negatively by the vaccine itself. And I think that's important for these people to understand, that when they are taking the vaccine, even though I believe in vaccines, that it's just the state of this particular vaccine, and the athletes need to understand this, that it is a risk and what those risk factors are, So that way, understanding that, even in taking it and for their benefit and things of that nature, there is a risk to it, and that it is documented. Typically, like with the flu vaccine, every year there's about maybe 20 to 30 to 40 people that's implementing this into this program in the VAERS that says, hey, these people might have died from this particular vaccine. And and that means that's about 10% of what actually happens in the whole United States. Well, they've done that for this particular thing, and we're talking 6 to 10,000. And so most people have no idea that 6 to 10,000 have been adversely reacted or had some type of issue with this vaccine, because that's not something that they talk about. But that is a risk that, once again, the general public need to know when they get ready to look at their child that's 18 to 21-year-old making an adult decision to get the vaccine. Is it beneficial? Do I believe in it? Yes. Are there significant risks? Yes. Do we know all the risks? No, because it's in an experimental phase.
Yeah.
And so I think in the context of them, implementing this into their programs, regardless of the colleges, parents need to be aware that, hey, this is a risk, and we need to know all the risk factors. So that way, when they're making this decision, understand that most of this information that this impact might not happen but 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and you won't know it until then, because we just don't know much about it right now. Even though it's beneficial, there are risk factors. So I just wanted to make that statement, because I think that's significant for people to know in the context of trying to implement something into the programs, into the universities that I believe are beneficial, but they still have risks on both sides. And I think it's significant for each parent to get that, to understand that. That makes sense?
Oh, it does. It makes perfect sense, Vol Nation, and appreciate you, man.
I appreciate
you calling in and sharing that with us. I mean, that's why at the end of the day, it's someone's decision. I mean, it's your decision to get vaccinated or not, based on what you believe and how you, the information that you interpreted. Vol Nation did mention that he believes in it, the vaccination, but at the same time, like, hey, there are risk factors too. I guess it's one of those things where you weigh out the risks, and you got to decide which one is riskier than the other one. And so, I don't blame Greg Sankey for doing what he's doing. I don't blame anyone for having an opinion on wanting to get the vaccination or not. I made a personal decision. I'm sure other folks, make that personal decision, and If you have a job, maybe you've been encouraged to become vaccinated. And if you are, you got to make a decision on if that's something that you want to go forward with, or do you want to get a new job? And players, that's why it's a threshold instead of, got to have 100% of the players vaccinated. But this is where we are. I mean, pretty much this is the definition of it is what it is. Let's go back to the phones and good morning. Welcome to the Swain Event. Who do we have today?
Good morning there. It's Turkey Man.
Hey, Turkey Man. What's up, man?
Not much. Of all nations right on time, man.
Oh yeah, as always. So I mean, you have this virus that's still active and it's still infecting people, and then you have sports going on, and when you're trying to push through sports, but at the same time, you want to keep people safe. You don't want it to spread, so you have this vaccination that's proven to be effective. But at the same time, you got people that have their personal beliefs, and they don't want to put something in their body that they don't feel comfortable putting in their body, and so I respect that. So it's just a tough position to be in, but this is what has to happen for football to be played, and if it's not, then it won't be for some team. So either do it or don't. But SEC has what they're going to do, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. When I called in yesterday and asked what the protocol, I didn't expect maybe this much, but I knew there would be something along the COVID, because we've done seen it happen in the World Series, how it affected it. But what he was talking about, me being what I do on a regular basis with the church and all, I run into situations you're talking, see a lot no person doesn't see. And I see more, and I have seen more people affected by taking the vaccination, because it affects them so many ways. Myself, I have chosen not to take it, and why? I'm allergic to everything. I can't take penicillin. I remember a few years ago when I had that surgery, two surgeries in one day. Well, they give me medication for my stomach that I was going to have to take.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the blood pressure medicine I take, it counteracted, and I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. My tongue was swollen up. I couldn't swallow it. And I was having an allergic reaction to it that, it like to kill me. And what I'm trying to say is that to punish someone, especially in the country we live in, especially when, as Law Nation laid it out there, it's experimental. And
yeah, Turkey Man. I don't want to get into all that, because I just want to keep it sports as much as possible.
More to it.
Yeah, I appreciate.
There's more to it. Anyhow, I understand that, but anyhow, tell Ben to be safe down there. And,
Ben can hear you.
Well, Ben, you there?
I am here. Are you there?
Hey, buddy. Are you gonna get to ask any questions after a while?
Yeah, if I want to, I will. I'll be in the main room,
okay,
looking at old hype man
I'll
on the podium.
I'll probably try to tune in, maybe get to see you or hear you there.
Yeah, I'll be the one with the bald head. 11:30 your time.
Okay.
So,
that sounds good. Well, I'll get out of here and let somebody else get in here and talk. And Swain, anytime you need any help, you call me. I'll come and warm the coffee for you.
All right, Turkey Man.
We'll be right there to help you, buddy.
All right, man. I appreciate the phone call. Ben's getting ready to hit that road to Birmingham. Good thing about going from Knoxville to Huntsville and then Birmingham, you get to avoid I-59, and you can just hit 65. That's smart right there, Ben.
Yeah, but does it really matter if you have to dodge all the potholes in Birmingham?
No, yeah, because there's potholes on 59 and it's terrible on 59. At least you can hit 65, and 65 is a smooth ride. It's easy from Huntsville. So
that's true. But they were doing, when I was coming back from the SEC baseball tournament, they were doing construction and filling those potholes. So It's actually not that bad of a drive down from Chattanooga to Birmingham. It's when you get into the Birmingham area that stinks.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. You are 100% right about that, my friend. Well, I know you got to run, get on the road to Birmingham, and man, we gonna let you do it. And coming up, we're gonna talk to our guy Matt Moscona, 104.5 The Zone. It's gonna be a good time, my friend. So, Ben, you be careful in your travels, my friend.
I will try to. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow at some point.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Joining us now, Matt Moscona, 104.5 The Zone. He's down there in Birmingham. Do we have you, Matt, there?
Swain, what's up, dude?
What's up, my man? My man. Hey, man, when you're in the studio by yourself, you're hosting, you're producing, man, you gotta have to kind of go on the fly a little bit. So, man,
Dude,
thank you for understanding.
I respect the hustle and understand it. I think everybody who's done this at any point ever has been in that chair before, so respect.
You've done that before? You've produced and hosted at the same time? Woo!
Swain, it's not even like an if. Like, if you've ever spent any time hosting a show, you've been in that situation where you've been producer-less and you've had to just do both things.
Man, you have a new appreciation for producers for sure. First time you do it, so a lot of buttons pushing, making sure everything is right. So, man, I just appreciate you for joining the show, man. And dude, I saw you everywhere. Man, you was on everybody's show yesterday, man.
So I know you've been here before, but it's one of those things where that if you cover a certain school, the day that your school takes their turn, like, people always want perspectives from the people that cover that school, right?
Yeah.
So, like, yesterday was LSU, so I did more interviews yesterday than I'll do the rest of the week combined because it was LSU day. I mean, I probably spoke more on other people's shows yesterday than I did on my own show yesterday, but LSU is also just a really interesting team this year, man, because you're coming off of 2 seasons, Swain, that were polar opposites. I mean, the most dominant championship team we've ever seen, and then whatever last year was. I mean, that wasn't a regression. That was a face plant.
Yeah.
So, which one is the outlier? That's really the question that LSU is going to answer this year.
I mean, it worked out. I mean, when you kind of take a step back, some of the NCAA questions there, and I mean, at this point, who really cares about the NCAA? But you guys did the the self-imposed bowl ban in a year where you lost all the talent, you just won a championship, so people still happy about that. But this was the perfect time to not go to a bowl in a COVID year. Tennessee just didn't go because of COVID, so it worked out. But now you bounce back from that. And it's weird because Coach Orgeron, only like a year removed from winning a championship, it kind of feels like he's on the hot seat a little bit. It feels like he has some pressure to go out and win. Am I wrong, or is that kind of the feeling down there in Baton Rouge?
No, man. Yes, Swain. Yesterday, all the interviews I did, I got asked, in every one of them, I got asked 2 questions. 1, Max or Miles at quarterback, and 2, is Orgeron really on the hot seat? And
Wow.
I think Dennis Dodd kind of kicked that anthill a couple of weeks ago when he posted his hot seat rankings in college football, and he had Orgeron a 4 out of 5. And I mean, the truth is, Swain, that it's legitimate, and the proximity to the championship season is kind of irrelevant in the conversation because the reason there's so much heat cranked up on Orgeron is everything that's happened away from the field. It's not just, well, you had this championship season and then you had to step back, and so now he's on the hot seat. It's more so you had this championship season, then you had this regression, and while that happened, you're in the midst of a federal Title IX lawsuit. You've had some other off-the-field, maybe personality goings-on with Ed and other things that have basically snowballed and continue to pile up in that ledger against him that's put more pressure on him to win before those off-the-field things maybe overtake whatever good he might have done on the field. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense, but basically all the off the field stuff has put a tremendous amount of pressure on him to win. And if he doesn't win, it gives Scott Woodward, an AD that did not hire him, the opportunity to potentially move on from Ed Ogeron.
Matt Moscona, 104.5, Baton Rouge here on the program. And we were talking about this before we had you on about 45 minutes ago here in the program, and you had Joe Brady, you had Joe Burrow, you had all these great players, you had great coaches, and part of being a good head coach is getting the talent, getting the coaches, and then letting them coach. But at the same time, it feels like, okay, maybe they won in spite of Ogeron, but like it wasn't like Ogeron's a bad coach. With the things that you just mentioned, the off the field stuff, he did kind of waste a lot of money with bringing in coaches, didn't work out, firing them after 1 year, and then having to pay a buyout. So I mean, I understand why LSU folks would look at Ogeron and go, okay, maybe we can go win a championship with someone else because we're always going to recruit high-end talent, and we're going to provide resources around a coach to where they can be successful. Les Miles won a championship. Ed Ogeron won a championship. We can do that with any top coach because we're going to attract top coaches. So it kind of feels like that. That's kind of the approach and the mindset from the LSU brass and fans.
I think there is definitely that sentiment when you consider each of the last three coaches at LSU have won championships with Saban, Miles, and Ogeron. And certainly Saban is in a class all by himself, but Miles and Ogeron certainly have their detractors professionally. And Les won a championship and played for another, and Ogeron put together, the greatest season any of us have ever seen. So there is definitely that sentiment that whoever's next, it's better to, if you're going to move on, to do so too soon instead of too late. But again, Swain, I'll bring it back. It's less about, because I just need to be clear about this. It's less about just consistent poor performance on the field.
Yeah.
And it's more because there is so much on the periphery that is very bad that most people aren't paying attention to. Like you referenced the bowl, the self-imposed bowl ban. That related to something that happened back in 2012 with a booster paying the father of a player for a no-show job. Mm-hmm. That's what that related to.
Yeah,
that had nothing to do with the federal Title IX lawsuits that are going on right now involving LSU.
Yeah,
and that's where Ed and some current administrators are kind of tangled in that web. And that's a very big deal that most people, it's deep and far-reaching. We don't have time to go through all of it, but just understand that is a massive deal when the U.S. Department of Education is investigating your university, when multiple multi-million-dollar lawsuits are being filed against people on your coaching staff and in your university administration, and naming your head coach in the lawsuit. It's that Title IX lawsuit is the big deal that not enough people are talking about or really understand the severity of what's happening there.
Yeah, that sounds like a tough future for Ed Ogeron for sure. Football wise, though, you mentioned the two questions that you've gotten have been one of those questions have been about who's going to be the quarterback, Max Johnson, Miles Brennan. We had a conversation about that earlier. Miles Brennan has probably more experience, but Max Johnson did a pretty good job coming in when it was his turn last year. I know Ogeron said that no one is been out in front of the other. One guy has a good day one day, and the other one has a better day the other day. Like, which one do you feel like gives LSU the best chance to win, or which one has the edge?
Yeah, so those are two interesting questions that may have different answers. Which one gives LSU the best chance to win, I think really depends on what Jake Peetz wants to do. So keep in mind, Swain, like Jake Peetz has never been an offensive coordinator. So we really don't know what he favors, like what what skill set he favors in a quarterback, because Max Johnson and Miles Brennan are pretty different. Miles has a much better arm. Max is a really good athlete that adds the running game dimension into whatever may be called. So what does Jake Peetz want? I mean, I know he's here to run the air quote Joe Brady offense, but I think every offensive coordinator is going to want to have his own spin on whatever he's doing. So that'll be really interesting to me to see what Jake Peetz personally prefers. Now, who kind of has the edge? If nobody has an edge, don't you kind of side with the veteran? I mean, Brennan's been around for 5 years, so it's my opinion that Miles Brennan will probably take the first snap against UCLA out in the Rose Bowl on September the 4th. And I think how he plays determines if he continues to maintain his grip on that job.
That's interesting, Matt, because like on certain situations, if both guys are even, I would think you go with the younger guy because you have more time with him, and he can develop and be better than the older guy. Like if both guys make good decisions or equally make both bad decisions, physically they're able to do kind of the same things, and no one kind of steps out in front of the other. Like I've seen cases where guys who are younger gets the nod because they just have more, they have more eligibility. But like I can see a case too where you go with the veteran guy because he may have more experience, but physically he is inferior to the younger guy who has less experience, but he's able to make a little bit more plays with the football, considering that both guys do a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. So like I've seen it play out both ways.
So I would give you a reference to what happened in 2017 at LSU, where Miles Brennan was a freshman.
Okay.
And remember, we now have the benefit of hindsight, but in 2017, Brennan was, high 4-star, elite 11, really came on the scene in recruiting rankings late at offers from everybody. But you had Danny Etling, who was the Purdue transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny Etling was a very pedestrian player, but he also didn't make mistakes. Like, he protected the football. He always got you in the right set. He got you in the right play. And when LSU lost to Troy that season, they didn't play Brennan the rest of the year. It was all Danny Etling the rest of the year because Ed knew he just needed to win games. Like, he needed someone who was going to be able to function within the offense and not make mistakes that could cost them games. I think he might be in a similar situation this year. Now, I'm not saying that Max Johnson can't do that. I mean, if anything, I think that's the great compliment to him last year was how poised he was as a freshman. But if it comes to that and you feel like, man, you just got to stockpile wins this year if you're at Ogeron, maybe you side with the veteran.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it just depends. I remember in 2014 for Tennessee, they had a guy by the name of Josh Dobbs, pretty good, still playing in the NFL, and he didn't get the shot initially. It was Justin Worley because of Justin Worley's experience, and physically Josh Dobbs was superior, but Justin Worley just had that. He was just steady. He was just steady, and the coaches knew what they were going to get. So it just really depends on the situation there. Stingley is the best player, arguably, in college football. He's going to rock the number 7, a tradition that we've seen play out with the best guys on the team, the playmakers on the team, the leaders on the team wear the number 7. I just think about Tyrann Mathieu rocking the number 7 with the one eye black. Man, that's a SEC tradition that I never get tired of. But man, Stingley, arguably the best player in the country, best corner in the country. Looks like he's going to be used on both sides of the football. How much do you think we see of that?
I asked him that yesterday, and his answer has been pretty standard, like, I'll do whatever coach wants me to do. and I pressed him because you got to understand, Swain. So Stingley is a Baton Rouge kid. Okay, he went to Dunham. Like, everyone has known about Stingley since he was a freshman at Dunham in Baton Rouge. And everybody saw him as a two-way player in high school. And ever since he was recruited, there was this question about whether or not he would be a two-way guy. And, I know Derek's dad, and when he signed his whole thing, and Derek Stingley's dad is I don't know if everybody knows Derek's family history, but of course, Darryl Stingley played in the NFL, who suffered a tragic accident that ultimately took his life on the field, where he's paralyzed on the field. And Derek Sr., of course, has played professional football and coached professional football. Like he's helped found the Arena League in China. I mean, they're a bit like, this isn't just like the air quotes football dad. Like, they are very they're an awesome family. But anyway, Derek Sr., whenever Derek was being recruited by LSU, said, listen, if you want him to play offense, it's fine, but wait till he's a junior. Like, let him master cornerback at the college level before you try to ask him to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've stayed true to that. Now it's junior season. Derek's probably going to be up for a lot of awards. Do you put him on offense to try to get him even more exposure? I pressed Derek on that yesterday, and he kind of laughed and he said, look, I think every defensive back thinks they could be a great receiver, like that they could have the ball in their hands and make plays. And so, like, if they asked him to do it, he would do it. Personally, my opinion, Swain, and I mean, you played, so I think you could probably speak to this. I look at LSU's roster and I go, man, there are so many talented wide receivers on the LSU roster that just don't get targets and touches. Like, it is a challenge to find ways to get all of these guys involved. Why in the world would you take your all-everything cornerback and instead of letting him get a Powerade and a rest on the sideline and work on the next defensive series, why are you running him out there to go run sprints down the field to try to catch the ball and put his health, his knees at risk, his ankles at risk, trying to run routes and catch passes and have a safety come over the middle and try to clean him up because he's Derek Stingley? For me, I don't see the risk reward doesn't jive for me. Like, if he wants to do it, I understand that, but man, I don't. There's no way I could justify running him out on the field as a receiver when he's so good and so valuable as a defensive back, and you have so many receivers who are already struggling to get them all involved.
Yeah. I agree with you. I wouldn't do it either, man. I think the only benefit would be trying to win the Heisman, but I mean that's tough to do because
it's not going to happen.
It's an offensive award.
You and I both know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not. It's an offensive award. Yeah.
And Swain, like, I don't even want Stingley returning punts, man. Like, against Auburn 2 years ago, he tried to. It was a wet track. He tried to plant after catching a punt. He like awkwardly twisted his knee, and like you have this hold your breath moment because like, why is he back? Like, I get so many guys that are fast and athletic that had the ball in their hands in high school that they can return kicks and punts that can make a dude miss. I mean, hey, I don't need Stingley back there doing that, man. It just
Honey Badger has some fast receivers and punt returners that were capable too. But if he's special, he's special.
I get it. I get it. I do.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, man. He's fun to watch, man. He plays the game the way it's supposed to be played, full speed. He's a great competitor, and he's dang good, man. Best corner in the country. I'm glad that Tennessee doesn't have to play against him this year. Man, Matt's already been 15, 20 minutes, man. I know you got a couple other interviews to do, and appreciate your time, man. I'm gonna catch up with you for sure, man, because it's always good to connect and pick your brain. So, man, I'm going to do that here soon, and I just hope you have a safe trip back to the boot. And thank you so much for joining us, man, and dropping some LSU nuggets on us.
You got it, Swain. Anytime, man. Thanks, dude.
You're welcome, man. Matt Moscona, 104.5, Baton Rouge, with us. We'll take a quick time out, and then we'll come back, talk Florida Gators with David Waters of Gator Breakdown here on the Swain Event. Don't go anywhere. 865-255-03 is our telephone number, and we'll be right back. Stay right here.
Top 100 barbecue restaurant Dead End Barbecue is a no-brainer when you are craving the smoky flavor of quality Q. Dead End makes it easy to enjoy their fantastic menu with online ordering from Chow Now for pickup. Or if you don't feel like leaving the house, then have Dead End Barbecue delivered right to your door by Loco Knoxville or Bite Squad. Cheer on your favorite team with the best barbecue around. Check them out online at deadendbbq.com. Dead End Barbecue. The search is over.
Is that as low as you can go? Okay, thank you. Hello, is that as low as you can go? Okay, thank you.
What are you doing?
Calling around to get the best rate on a car loan.
Why? Everyone knows Alcoa 10 is the best choice to purchase a vehicle or refinance your current loan. And with low interest rates and 90 days to your first payment, it's a no-brainer. You can even apply online and sign all the documents from the convenience of your home.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Alcoa 10 Credit Union. It's so easy. Go to atfcu.com for details. Rates are dependent on credit score and equal housing lender.
When you see the happy face on our truck, you'll be smiling because you'll know that you're in love.
At Hiller, we care about your family's comfort all year long. If you get caught without air conditioning this summer, we're offering a free service call with any repair. That's a free service call when we do the work on your HVAC system. Visit happyhiller.com to schedule your appointment today.
Call the happy face truck today.
Out-of-town law firms have been swarming into East Tennessee lately. Firms from Memphis, Chattanooga, and Birmingham have stormed into the area. Wouldn't you rather do business with a local law firm? You know, a true neighbor. Marcos Garza and the pros at the Garza Law Firm are just that. They are our neighbors and friends that support local causes year-round. The Garza Law Firm works to serve you professionally on criminal matters, injuries and accident matters, and Social Security and disability filings. The Garza Law Firm is here for you at garzalaw.com. The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
You don't have to take an L just because you can't listen to the Swain Event live. You can catch up on the podcast posted daily on the app, online, and on iTunes.
Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, fueled by Dead End Barbecue, top 100 barbecue restaurant in America. Jason Swain, right here live from the Low T Center studio. And Ben is on his way to Birmingham for SEC Media Days. It's time to talk Gators. And no one is better to discuss the Florida Gators than David Waters. Gators Breakdown. You can follow David on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. David, good morning. Let me get David turned up there. All right, David, there we go. Good morning, David.
Got me now?
Yeah, man. Good morning.
All right, good morning.
David, Dan Mullen, rocking the Jordans, rocking the tennis shoes as always. That's his style. That's his tradition. One of the best quotes I think of the day was when Dan Mullen was asked about, you know, the predictions that Georgia's going to be number one, and he was like, "Hey, man, didn't they say that last year?" As much as Dan Mullen can rub people the wrong way.
Last year, though.
What'd you say?
I said they actually didn't last year. Florida was sick, so I don't know what he was trying to get at there.
Yeah, but I like when Dan Mullen, you know, goes a little bit against the grain and you know, puffs his chest out a little bit because, listen, he deserves it, man. He's a dang good coach. He's developed quarterbacks at a high level, and he's coming off a really good season. And so that type of confidence, I think, attracts people. But I saw yesterday where the guys there on ESPN, SC Network, were talking about, all right, how do you bounce back, man? How do you bounce back losing so much talent? We saw LSU go win a championship, lose a bunch of talent. We've seen teams around the country lose talent and then just bounce back. And we've seen some teams take huge step back. Where do you think Florida will be this year with trying to replace the talent that they lost?
Yeah, that's one area I think, you know, Dan Mullen being so involved in the offense. I kind of think that helps limit such a drop. You know, he's so involved in that offense and he's developing players. And you know, this is not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Emory Jones is going to be starting. He's a new starter at quarterback, but he's been there. He's been able to learn the last 2 years, and he's not so new. You know, you're not throwing in a true freshman in there to take his first snaps when the season rolls around. Emory Jones is taking snaps. He's taking snaps in important games, and he's been around to learn from Dan Mullen in the last 3 years, and Felipe Franks and Kyle Trask as well. Waited his turn. So And with Dan Mullen, there's going to be a baseline of a good offense. Now, I think the ceiling for this offense it is going to depend on Emory Jones and his arm talent. No question, he's a dual threat. He can run. He can he can do some things with his legs. But his offense is only going to go as far as Emory Jones' arm can take him in those critical situations. So that's just the next step we're waiting to see from Emory Jones, and he's being developed by one of the best. There's got some weapons behind him there at running back. Florida can go 5 deep there at running back, and just getting DeMarcus Bowman, the 5-star transfer from Clemson, to add to that rotation, and some receivers who have some experience with Jacob Copeland and Justin Shorter. So I think there's enough pieces for not a huge drop. There will be a baseline good. It's just I still always will go back to, if this offense is going to be very good to elite, it's going to be based on how well Emory Jones' arm count can take the Florida Gators.
I want to go back to Emory Jones, David, because this is a day and age of you're not able to win a lot of games. It's just defense running the football and having an average quarterback. You better have an above average quarterback if you expect to win a significant amount of games. This year, the quarterbacks in this league, man, there's a significant drop off. So hey, you may be able to do that if you just have an average quarterback. But we see offensive change. We see quarterbacks, be a different, important piece to offenses in this conference. The question that I have is more about Emory Jones, the passer. I've seen him take handoffs, and that seems like that's pretty much all he was used for last year with Dan Mullen when he came in. And sometimes I would scratch my head of why he's coming in, because Kyle Trask was on fire. But I get it. You want to get a guy in. Don't want to make him seem like he's not going to play. Don't want to have players transferring. But talk to me about Emory Jones as a passer. Is there confidence there from you that you feel that Emory Jones can be the type of quarterback needed for Florida to win as a passer and a runner?
Yeah, he has shown some promise. I go back to the 2019 game versus Auburn. Kyle Trask goes down. It looked like a bad injury at the time, and it was right before halftime. So Kyle Trask goes down. They take him to the locker room, and Emory Jones comes in, and he leads Florida down to the field with some passes. It was more with his arm than it was his leg. That was a very good Auburn defense that year. So he drives him down, had a couple conversions with his arm on 3rd down, and gives Florida a field goal in a very tight game. So, and I know a lot of people will want to go back and look at the Oklahoma Bowl game and try to make a determination for Emory Jones just based off of that game, because that's pretty much the last time we saw it. But so many circumstances, you were without your top targets at wide receiver who sat out that game. You basically only practiced 3 times going into that bowl game after the disappointing loss to Alabama. So I think too much can be made of that Oklahoma Bowl game. So I caution people if they're watching that one to kind of make a determination on Emory Jones. I wouldn't necessarily do so. So I think there's still a lot of questions, Jason. I mean, it's as you said, when he did come in, it was more to do with his legs and design quarterback runs. If you go back to spring, we weren't allowed at spring, but the word was he did struggle a little bit with velocity, when to tone the ball down. So I think it's going to be the little things that need to add up. He's got a live arm, and he can chuck it down the field. But, of course, you got to be able to do more than that. Now, I think that can fit well in Florida's offense. If this run game is going and you have to worry about the run game, and there's a lot of one-on-one coverage with these receivers that sets up some big plays down the field, I think you'll have that part of the offense. But when it's 3rd and 7, you got to hit that guy across the middle. That's the question I still have, is the intermediate, being able to read the defense, being able to make the right checks but before the play even starts, getting the offense in the right play. Those are the questions I have about Emory Jones. Not necessarily the physical talent. It's more the mental, what to do with the ball, what to do before the snap. And those are my big questions.
Florida did a good job there in the transfer portal, especially bringing in DeMarcus Bowman, who was a 5-star, went to Clemson, and he was added to the Florida roster, and Dan Mullen kind of confirmed his eligibility. What do you see him being able to add to the Florida offense?
Hopefully the playmaker, Dan Mullen's never had a running back stable like this, and he's never had a running back like DeMarcus Bowman anywhere he's been. Even going back to his offensive coordinator days at Florida, Percy Harvin was still the slasher. He was a wide receiver and running back. He's never had a pure running back with this ability. So I am eager to see how fast he can get into the rotation. And you add him after you added 5-star Lorenzo Lingard in the portal last year. who was coming off an injury at Miami, so maybe he's also more in the mix as well. Florida had 3 guys in that rotation last year, led by Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, and Naquan Wright, who all got extensive playing time last year. And then you add these 2 5-stars the last 2 years. They're deep at running back. They need some help from the offensive line. I like what they bring to the table, a lot of versatility. Your Damian Pierce is kind of your bruiser, go get you 3-4 yards. But then you got some more electric playmakers everywhere else with Lingard, Bowman, Wright, and Davis. And the one thought might be Davis may play a little bit of slash role himself, go out to that slot receiver role, and maybe motion out from the backfield as well as a receiver. We saw what he could do versus Georgia last year as a receiver out of the backfield, that wheel route that Florida ran over and over again. So those running backs have some experience in being versatile pieces in Dan Mullen's offense. But I still think, with the explosiveness potential that you have in a player like DeMarcus Bowman, you have to find a way to get the ball in his hands. Florida really lacked explosive runs last year. I think they, if I counted right, Jason, I had the stat. It was only 4 or 5 runs all year longer than 20 yards from the running back position. Florida, they've got to get better there. A lot of that goes to the offensive line. And I think these 2 5-star running backs that Florida hopefully will be counting on this year can elevate the guys, the play of the guys around them, to hit some more of those big chunk plays in the run game.
David Waters, host of Florida Gators podcast, Gators Breakdown here in the Swain Event. We know Dan Mullen is about offense. We know that he is a quarterback whisperer, and his offense was prolific down there in Florida last year. But the Achilles heel was the defense. And so that is the question. When you're breaking in a new starter at quarterback, got some new faces there, running back, how will the defense complement the offense and special teams? So I'm pretty sure the Florida Gator fans are anticipating and hopeful and borderline demanding to see some better defense. Will they see that?
Gator fans are hopeful, but they're not confident. Me and the Gator fans, Jason, were so ready to move on from Todd Grantham last year, and Dan Mullen decided to bring you back for one more year. Now, the interesting note there is, Grantham still has not been given a contract extension, signed a new contract of any kind since he was hired at Florida. This is the last year of his contract, so we'll see what that means. This means, this is pretty much his last season either way. But a lot of fans wanted that move made last year. Dan Mullen said something interesting last year. Wasn't necessarily throwing his coaches under the bus too much on the defense, but was he, quote, said they had a lot of, quote, independent contractors on defense last year. Guys not wanting to play team football, guys looking out for themselves. And the players themselves said they got to get on the same page. They got to do the little things right. And I know that sounds basic, and you'll hear probably that a whole lot, but it was the simple, basic things that this Florida defense could not do last year. Had trouble tackling. They couldn't get lined up before the snap. Miscommunication, leaving guys wide open. It's the little things that added up to big things for this Florida defense. So that had to be the move in the spring. You brought in 2 new secondary coaches, Wesley McGriff from Auburn and Jules Montanaro from USF. Put those guys back there. You'll have a lot of new faces in that secondary. Behind Kyer Elam and Trey Dean, there's a lot of question on who can play cornerback and safety for the Gators. But up front, I think they'll be really strong up front. Zachary Carter, who was here yesterday, he'll play defensive end, more of his natural position. Brenton Cox there at rush end. Then you bring in 2 transfers at defensive tackle, Daquan Newkirk from Auburn and Antonio Valentino from Penn State. I really like what they could do at defensive tackle, adding those 2 with Gervin Dexter, the 5-star defensive lineman from last year. So Florida can be really strong up front, and I think it can help carry those guys in the secondary till they get their feet under them when Alabama rolls into town week 3.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one, man. The Florida-Alabama matchup, and I know Dan Mullen spoke about getting rid of the permanent SEC West opponent. And I know that LSU-Florida game is really a tough game for both sides because you already have a tough schedule as it is without that crossover. But I'm pretty sure there would be some years where that would benefit Florida more than not. You would come across the Mississippi States and the Ole Misses and more of games I think would be a little bit easier to win than seeing Alabama or seeing an LSU that cross division rival each and every year. Tough scheduling in the SEC, but I guess that's why it makes it the best conference in the land. Dave, breakout player, man, someone that didn't necessarily was on the radar last year. You know, you had Kyle Pitts, you had Kyle Trask, pretty much getting all the recognition. But who's a breakout player, someone that, you know, you're looking for to make some plays for this Gator team, either on offense, defense, or special teams?
Yeah, I'll give you one on each side pretty quick. Trent Whittemore, wide receiver there for Florida, really had a strong start to last season before he got injured. And then it kind of had some trouble bouncing back there, of course, but behind Kyle Pitts, behind Kadarius Toney there. So those guys were going to be the main weapons. But Trent Whittemore, I think he'll be in his third season here for the Gators. I expect him to be a major player at wide receiver for the Gators. And then Mamu Diabate on defense. He switched from defensive end or that rush buck end position to just pure linebacker last year. And you could tell he struggled to begin with. But as the season progressed, you could see him getting more comfortable, getting more physical there at the linebacker position, and really come on by the time the year had ended. So I think with another full offseason, being able to learn that linebacker position, that position's about instinct. And you probably have to develop that instinct a little bit if you haven't played that position before. He got there last year, played really good, starting from game 1 to game 12, improved as a player. Mamu Diabate at linebacker. I think Florida had some questions at linebacker last year. This year, I think they're a little more solidified because of a player like Diabate getting that experience last year, getting the full offseason, and then being able to translate it to this year.
Dave Waters at Gators, Dave_SEC. Dave is from Gators Breakdown. Give him a follow on Twitter. Dave, man, I know you got a packed day today, man. I know people calling you, asking you about what to take from the Florida day yesterday, SEC Media Days. I look forward to connecting with you again here in a couple weeks, man. It won't be long before Tennessee we play in Florida. So looking forward to it, and thank you so much for your time this morning.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Dave Waters, Gators Breakdown here on the Swain Event. Does a great job of covering the Gators. It's time for another break. We'll take a quick timeout, and we'll come back, get your questions answered, hit the text box up, wrap up today's show here on the program. Hour number 3 is powered by Low T Center and lowtcenter.com. Be right back. Stay with us.
Hour 3 of the Swain Event is brought to you by the Low T Center and lowtcenter.com. Do you know your numbers? Feel like you again. Let us help.
Guys, your health right now is more important than ever. I recommend Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked. It all starts with the annual wellness exam, where they do a comprehensive health assessment exclusively for men, making it quick and easy to take care of your health. And now they offer monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatment. Most insurance is accepted. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment and make your health a priority. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. Out-of-town law firms have been swarming into East Tennessee lately. Firms from Memphis, Chattanooga, and Birmingham have stormed into the area. Wouldn't you rather do business with a local law firm? You know, a true neighbor. Marcos Garza and the pros at the Garza Law Firm are just that. They are our neighbors and friends that support local causes year-round. The Garza Law Firm works to serve you professionally on criminal matters, injuries and accident matters, and Social Security and disability filings. The Garza Law Firm is here for you at garzalaw.com. The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
More and more Tennessee businesses are switching to Iris Networks for reliable, local, high-quality, high-speed business fiber internet. Iris provides direct internet access from 10 megs to 10 gigs with no payments for 90 days. Iris also offers next-generation business phones with work-from-anywhere capability from the mobile or laptop app. With local sales, support, and service, Iris is a partner in the community. Learn more at irisnetworkusa.com or call 865-448-IRIS. Iris Networks, a Tennessee business connecting Tennessee businesses.
Is that as low as you can go? Okay, thank you. Hello, is that as low as you can go? Okay, thank you.
What are you doing?
Calling around to get the best rate on a car loan.
Why? Everyone knows Alcoa 10 is the best choice to purchase a vehicle or refinance your current loan. And with low interest rates and 90 days to your first payment, it's a no-brainer. You can even apply online and sign all the documents from the convenience of your home.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Alcoa 10 Credit Union. It's so easy. Go to atfcu.com for details. Rates are dependent on credit score and equal housing lender.
Hour 3 of the Swain Event is brought to you by the Low T Center and lowtcenter.com. Do you know your numbers? Feel like you again. Let us help.
Swain Event, SwainEvent.com, fueled by Dead End Barbecue, top 100 barbecue restaurant in America. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. 20 minutes past the top of the hour here on the program. We'll hit up the text box this morning. Some good stuff as always on the text box, especially from Neil Mafia, who lets us know how he feels about Tim Tebow, and it's not nice at all. He says, blank Tim Tebow. You know, Neil Mafia is normal. It's his normal. It's his normal feeling about Tim Tebow. East Cobb Vol says tonight on NBC, Tennessee versus Columbia in the College Bowl with Peyton as the show host. Do you guys plan on watching? Now I do. Now I do. Peyton Manning is hosting and Tennessee's on display. So, yeah, I have to make a note of that because I will forget. CMBTNG says, I'm late to the show this morning. Sorry if you guys have already answered this. But if you were a reporter at SEC Media Days and you were not covering Tennessee, what would be your question for Coach Hype? That's a good question. That's a good question. My question would be about what do you feel like you can bring that's different than the previous head coaches that Tennessee have had? They've had so many different voices. They've had so many different approaches. You went with the Saban disciple in Derek Dooley that came from a pedigree of college coaching, dad, legend. Then you went to the coach that had a little bit more of success at a smaller school. But then that didn't work out. And then you went with a coach that won championships as a coordinator, was a great recruiter inside of this conference, had ties in this conference, recruiting. That did not work out. So Tennessee has went all different angles. I would ask Josh Heupel, okay, what makes you different? Why do you feel like you're going to be successful with Tennessee based on conversations you've had with the people around Tennessee, the players? And I will let him just answer and talk because we will get him selling himself. Those answers, I'm sure, are the same answers that he's giving recruits, the pitches that he's using when he's talking to recruits. I want to hear the pitch. I want to hear what Josh Heupel is telling recruits. Now, I know the Austin Prices and the Ben McKees talk to the recruits, but I want to hear it from him personally. I want to hear the pitch. I want to hear it. That would be my question. Vol Nation earlier brought up points about the vaccine, and KY Vol says, Vol Nation brought up some great points. Tremel says, Papa T, a.k.a. Vol Nation, is a truth. Rodney Austell had a personal experience with the vaccine. It wasn't pleasant. CJ Vol says, can't coach speed. Can't take guys just because they are highly rated within the state. Swain is right on this one, but it's the right call. Yeah, we were having a conversation about Isaiah Horton, the receiver from Oakland High School, and Miami is trending for him. Tennessee was in a very good position for a while, but things changed. And did they change because Horton just all of a sudden just wanted to go to Miami while Tennessee was putting on the full court press, or did Tennessee go 3/4 press? Did they go half court press a little bit? I tend to think, just looking at the speed that we are accumulating with this recruiting class, you go down and look at Squirrel White, and he's a 10-6, 10-6 40 guy. You look at Cam Miller. No, he's a 4.45 guy. Maybe a little bit faster. But if you run a 4.4 or you have a 4.5, low 4.5, but you have great game speed, like that's going to be a match. But if you are a player that's in the 4.6s, that might be a problem in this offense. Just because it might be a problem in this offense doesn't mean that player is not a good, and he won't be a perfect fit somewhere else. There's all type of different ways to win. But look at how big of a problem Alabama caused people with their speedy wide receivers. Like, what are you going to do when you got three guys that can run past you? And you go all goes. Or you got a receiver in the slot split in the middle on a post route versus cover two. Like, that linebacker is beat at birth. There's nothing he can do. You just can't teach. You can't just teach speed. So Tennessee is getting faster. Dylan Sampson, Dutchtown, down in Louisiana. I mean, he's smoking fast. That's the offense that you're seeing come together. And you have to go out and get the players that fit your offense. And you can't not get who you think will help you win just because of where players located and where he's from. You can have a player that lives in the first house next to campus. And if he's not a good fit, he's not a good fit. Simple as that. If I was coming out of Alabama today, would I be a good fit at Alabama? In their offense last season? I don't know. I don't run 4.3s. So it's about fits. And so I'm just warning you now. If Isaiah Horton commits to Miami, and it looks like that's where he's trending, please don't let folks get you riled up, influence you, making you think that Tennessee just struck out and, oh my gosh, in-state recruiting is a huge issue. Now, it's not great because of the success of the program the last couple of years. It's an uphill battle for this coaching staff. But don't make it seem like that this staff on this at bat with this prospect where you just struck out and it was just a huge loss. No, I don't know about that. Now, that doesn't mean that Horton's not a dang good player. Doesn't mean that Horton won't go to Miami or somewhere else and light it up. But you have a system. You have a system that's proven, and you have to get the particular players for what you want to do. Simple as that. Simple as that. In my prime, what did I run? Was I hurt or was I injured? Was I healthy? Those are the three questions. Hurt, injured, or healthy. So I was a 4.5 guy. I probably had a good day in high school here and there, but I was a 4.5 guy, consistently when healthy, low 4.5 guy, which is fast enough. But it may not be in Alabama's offensive last year. LC Vol says, am I concerned with the overall combination of recruiters on the staff, or is it as simple as we can't play in the gray area right now and the NCAA cloud out there right now? I think the jury is out on this staff of recruiters because it's really hard to judge the first year. I call it year zero, where coaches are brought in December in most cases. Our case, it was like February. So you're already behind in December. I remember when Dooley was hired, Butch was hired, Peru was hired. they were behind. But they got hired in December. We had a guy that was hired in February. So it's hard for me to count their first recruiting class. So that's year zero for me. This is the year where I judge them. So the jury's still out. I've only met, I know Rodney Garner. So not necessarily meeting him. I met him decades ago. I know Willie Martinez from his time here before. I know what type of guy he is and what type of coach he is. Those really the only two coaches I've met on this staff outside of Josh Heupel. So I'm not really familiar with any of the offensive coaches and how they recruit. A lot of those guys came from Central Florida. I know Cody Burns had some time in the SEC, but I haven't heard that he was a knockout home run hitter as a recruiter, and I did not hear that he struck out. Was a strikeout artist either. So I just have to kind of wait and see on him. Taking a look at the text box some more here. Stroll on down. Pizza Mon says you need to take care of your kids in state because they know each other. If you want the in-state talent, you have to have good reputations with kids. Yeah, you're right. But think about it like this. And this is in reference to Isaiah Horton. If you take a player just to take him and he's in state and you know that he is not what you want and he doesn't play, he doesn't make any plays, and when he does play, you don't set him up for success, what type of reputation is that going to correct? It's not going to be positive. At the end of the day, the truth will come out. The proof will be in the pudding. The cream will rise to the top. The truth will be revealed. So you taking a kid just because he's an in-state kid, even though you believe that he's not a good fit for you, that's just simply putting a Band-Aid on it. A short-term Band-Aid. And setting yourself up for some long-term problems and long-term issues. That's all you're doing. Because at some point, you're going to have to deal with it. Because if you bring a kid in and he's unsuccessful, kids are going to see, hey, man, this kid was an all-state player, all-American, great player. He gets to Tennessee, and they didn't know how to use him. It's the coach's fault. They don't know how to use him. Oh, he wasn't used right. Well, because he never was a fit. We just took him because he was an in-state player. So now you're just kicking the can down the road instead of handling it right the first time and being truthful the first time and saying, hey, man, just ain't fit. The high school coach gets it. He appreciates the honesty. Now, when the next crop of good players come from his high school, you have the open line of communication. You're a straight shooter instead of a BSer. Now the kid can go to where he wants to go the first time. It's the best fit. He gets to pick the school that's best fit for him the first time instead of going to one school and having to transfer. It's just best to do it the right way at first. Just do it the right way at the beginning. And it takes being honest. And who cares what the fans may say? Who cares? The fans matter to a certain extent. The fans' opinions matter to a certain extent. But if I'm in a film room and I'm watching film on hundreds and hundreds of players in high school, around the country, around the world, because Tennessee's recruiting a player from Canada, I'm not going to let somebody who barely watches any film, who just saw some recruiting rankings, and say, oh, this 4-star from Tennessee, you got to get him. Why? Why are you saying that? Just because he's from Tennessee? Just because of the star system? No, you got to believe in your evaluation. You can't be afraid of a little criticism on the front end from people that don't know as much information as you. Because if you get the right player, the right person for your team, then it all play out. So go get the Jalen Hyatts, who was a 3-star, committed to Virginia Tech at one point. If he's fast, you believe he's a guy for your offense, you go get him. Don't get caught up in some 4-star that's right here in your backyard, but he can't run as fast as Jalen Hyatt. So that's a good question by Pizza Mon. You take care of them by telling them the truth. That's how you take care of them. That's how you take care of them. And you take care of the relationships with the high school coaches. Because anything that good happens, people are going to talk about it. And high school coaches talk to other high school coaches. But the moment you screw one over, they'll be telling other high school coaches, hey, man, don't do business with Heupel. Don't do business with Tennessee. Because they brought my kid in knowing they weren't going to use him. Just for aesthetics. You don't want that either. You don't want that either. West Tennessee Vol says in the last 4 to 6 years, do you think there are players that were a good fit that were not used properly? The first few that come to mind are Dobbs and Callaway. Josh Dobbs? I thought Josh Dobbs was used properly in terms of like in between the lines on game day. I mean, they played to his strengths, but they did not develop him properly during his time. They did not give him all the tools to be successful. They did not have 7-on-7 and 1-on-1s, time where you can develop chemistry with your receivers and develop chemistry with your entire team, because the coach was afraid of guys getting hurt, which is the silliest thing I've ever heard. But I thought Dobbs was used right. You got to think about Mike DeBoer. Mike DeBoer had a great offense. The numbers speak for themselves. West Tennessee Vol, if you want to use someone that wasn't used properly, Nelson nailed it. Alvin Kamara wasn't used properly. That's somebody that wasn't used properly. The crazy thing is, like, when he was in, he was used properly. It's just the fact that he wasn't in as much. Why? Because of politics. That's why he wasn't in as much. But I thought he was used when he was in properly. He just wasn't used enough because of politics. But yeah. Oh, yeah. West Tennessee Vol says the better wording, development, wasn't there. Yeah. That'd be the better word to use on Dobbs. As far as Callaway, I thought Callaway had some good coaching. I mean, you got to think about Coach Zani brought him in. Coach Zani is coaching in the NFL and has been in the NFL since leaving Tennessee. So bad coaches don't stay in the NFL. And then he had David Yak Johnson, who's one of the best receiver coaches that I've seen. He does a great job. But he really wasn't able to be himself because he was in a bad culture. It moved him to running back coach because you brought in T. Martin. Then it was a bunch of drama. So, like, Callaway had some good coaches, but he just had drama. I think Callaway has proved that he has development, because if he didn't, there's no way he'll be playing as a rookie, as a free agent for the Saints. Like, you have to be developed to be able to do that. Now, it's fair to say he wasn't maybe used properly, because you can develop me as a player, as a position coach. So, like, my position coach on a daily basis can help me be a better receiver. It's the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's job to use me properly to get me the football. So I put that more on the OC. But as far as development, I thought the receiver coaches did a pretty good job of doing that. LC Vol says, how important is it that UT repairs relationship with Buck Fitzgerald? Seems like he's not happy with his coach staff and the university. I think that if you're both sides, you try to put your egos to the side. You know, at the end of the day, Buck Fitzgerald has, you know, he has a business to run, right? At the same time, you know, he's a Tennessee Volunteer, and so that's a position that's tough. That's why I never really wanted to be in that position. I mean, I'm here in Knoxville. I trained one player extensively. I mean, like every Saturday, every Sunday, like put in a significant amount of time. I did that one player, and because of a lie that was generated by, you know, previous head coach, folks were assuming that I was not pushing the kid to Tennessee. That ain't my job. My job ain't to push kids to go to a certain school. My job is to train kids and be the best they could be, and then they can make that decision because that's what I did. I would do a player the same way I was done. I had all kind of Alabama people around me, but the people that were closer in my circle were people that did not tell me where to go. And I wouldn't do that to anyone else if I was put in that position. But even if you don't do it, you're accused of doing it anyways. You're blamed for doing it if a player doesn't go to the school that people want them to go to. And so I know Buck Fitzgerald. I haven't talked to Buck in a long time, so I don't know the latest. I know something. You know, I know something did go on here in the last couple days, but I have not talked to Buck in a while, and I know NPA does a great job. We got players on our football team from NPA that worked at NPA. Walker Merrill is one of the most developed receivers I've seen come in a very long time, and it's because of NPA and the culture that they have, and you know, iron sharpening iron. So I just feel like, hey man, you're a Tennessee Volunteer. I wouldn't want to do anything to hurt my university, but at the same time, hey, I have a business too, and I can't push kids to go to a certain school just because I went there either. So that's just tough. That's tough, and hopefully, you know, all those things will be worked out if it's creating a big issue right now. And they usually do. You know, sometimes you have some misunderstandings. You know, the new staff, it just takes getting in a room, getting on the phone, just talking it out, hashing it out. That's all it takes in most cases. Nelson says Evan Berry was a player that wasn't used properly. Definitely should have been a weapon on offense. Yeah, that's weird, man. Because defensively, just, you know, I guess he wasn't a player that the coaches wanted him to be. Offensively, why couldn't he put him in for some reverses, some screens, things like that? Why not? As a player that got the ball to move and start, yeah, he was the best in the country. But how can you put a kick returner in on offense where you don't have a 15-yard run to start? I mean, where would you put it? Where would you put Evan Berry? Would you put him at receiver? Because I don't know if he was a receiver. Would you just move him totally to offense and, you know, put him at running back? Well, can he go from 0 to 60? Can he block? I don't know. I'm not saying he can't. I had that question. I just felt like, and I agree with you, Nelson, that he should have been used in more areas than just being a kick returner. I mean, if you're able to do those things, why not put you in on some screens on offense? Why not put you in you know, as a running back and give you the ball? The way that the Bears use Cordell Patterson, is how Tennessee should have used Evan Berry. Simple as that. You got one of the best kick returners of all time. Find him a way, get the ball. Make some plays. Nelson says you're just going to skip over Kevin Cleats Beard like that. Man, I forgot about Kevin Beard, man. Dang, Nelson. Dang, you called me. I forgot about Kevin Beard. Oh, man, I sure did. My bad. My bad, Kevin Beard. '90s Vol says Josh Heupel can't afford to miss on recruits or take kids that don't fit right now. Plain and simple. Can't afford to miss on anybody. Because if you do a scholarship reduction, self-imposed penalty, it's going to make it even more imperative that you don't strike out. Every year you're going to have 25, fresh scholarships. And the reality of the situation is you're going to strike out. You're going to strike out. But you don't want to strike out at a high rate. Well, when you lose scholarships and you go from 25 to 22 or 21 or whatever, or 20, who knows what the number's going to be. But now it puts even more pressure on you to make sure that you're right. You better be right. You better be right. Simple as that. Eval, be comfortable in evaluation, and you can't get caught up in the hype. And the tough thing is you have organizations, and there's a lot of them, in Tennessee, outside Tennessee, all over the country. And I'm a fan of them. I think they do more good than bad. But there's some organizations that do operate in the wrong way. But I think the culture that it creates and the competition that you get on a daily basis, the exposure you get to colleges at a young age, I think it can be very beneficial. And for me, I think it would have been. I didn't have a father figure growing up. Excuse me, I didn't have a father growing up. I did have a father figure, but not a sports fan and not someone that really could give me any advice about football. So I had to seek it myself. A training organization that I can tap into would have been beneficial for me, for sure. But because my father figure wasn't necessarily educated and knew the ins and outs of how college recruiting works, there was a higher probability that we probably could have been taken advantage of. Could have happened if you got yourself linked with the wrong people, wrong organization. But I think there's positives and I think there's negatives. It just depends on who is in charge. So sometimes these organizations will put pressure on these schools, say, hey man, offer this kid. Offer this kid in my organization. Well, that kid's not going to play at that school. But what happens is if school A offers that kid an organization, that means school C, D, E, and F sees that school A offered, and now they are going to offer just based on the fact that an SEC team offered. That happens too. And if you don't do it, then, all right, you're in my bad graces. And, when I do have a player that you want, I'm not going to help you recruit them. That happens too. That happens. That's part of the game today in recruiting with some of the organizations. But I don't know if that's what's going on here. Going back to the question about Tennessee and Buck Fisher, I don't know. I don't know the details. I haven't talked to Buck. Have not at all. But I anticipated, something like this. According to our question here in the text box, I anticipated it. If there's foreign players hurt, upset, bothered by what's going on in Tennessee in the last couple of years, and the Chancellor Plowmans and the Danny Whites and the Randy Boyds have had to sit down with guys and hash things out and figure out how we can make Tennessee better. If that's going on, then I know it's happening in other areas too. Josh Heupel's having to clean up a mess inside of his locker room. Guys are hurt, bothered about things that would happen before. People got to heal. Fans, you're trying to heal. Like, you're trying to heal. So everyone's trying to heal. So it just takes time to let your guard down, earn trust. So we'll see what happens. 90 Vol says, here's what I know. USC had a team full of 3-stars, and they would have beat our head in. Central Florida sent more kids to the league than we did in that time. I will give them a chance based on that evidence. 90s Vol, you spot on, my friend. You're spot on. Any Tennessee fan looking down on Central Florida and just making assumptions based on their stadium size and their schedule in the last couple of years, you're wrong. Because as a team, they're better than us. Better than us. Ain't no doubt about it. King Vol 300 says there was an article I remember reading that after Butch got fired, talking back about Evan begging Butch to play receiver. Also, Tyler Bird begging to play DB. Butch wouldn't hear it from either. Yeah, I don't think Tyler Bird would have been able to play DB, to be honest. Evan Berry, I would have been. I don't see why he wasn't able to play running back. That is a head scratcher for me. Why was Evan Berry not able to play running back? Because you can't just throw dudes at receiver and just think they're gonna just be a receiver. Stanley Assumption is one of the best athletes I've ever seen, but playing receiver is just not something you can just do. It's not easy. And Evan Berry was great at catching the ball with the 15-yard head start and seeing the hole, making the one cut, and just accelerating and going past everybody. Receiver is not that. Receiver is about changing directions. Quick, fast, in a hurry, being able to have great hand-eye coordination, being able to catch the ball at different levels. I mean, it is totally different than catching kickoffs. Totally different. But running back? Why couldn't Evan Berry play running back? That's my question that I have. Maybe I'll find that answer. ATL VFL says, what do you think held Milton back at Michigan? Seems to have the physical tools. I think it's Jim Harbaugh. How in the heck do you go from the NFL coaching a Super Bowl, going to Michigan, and getting your head beat in the way he's got his head beat in against Ohio State? Offensively, it's sometimes looking like they don't have a clue. It makes no sense to me. And you can't tell me they don't recruit good players. You can't tell me they don't recruit athletes. Like, I watched Joe Milton's film. It don't make any sense. It don't make any sense why he's not been successful. Or he wasn't successful at Michigan. So, I think that's going to change. I think what Tennessee wants to do fits Joe Milton's game perfectly, and it doesn't involve receivers that run 4.7s. He ain't going to be able to do it. Gotta have some burners. Or what do I think held Milton back in Michigan? Decision making or playmaking? I just don't think he believed in. I don't think anyone on offense believes in what they're doing there, because if they did, they would have more success. But when you don't have a clear understanding of what you're doing, you don't have belief in what you're doing, you don't have belief in the culture, you're not going to have success. And it could be playmaking, it could be decision making, it could be a number of things, ATL, VFL. But I would just look at his tools. Look at what he can do. Go look at Milton's game at Michigan. Go look at the throws that he can make. Go look at times when he ran the football. And then say, okay, if he's coached up, he has the ability to throw the ball 50 yards on a dime. He has the ability to maybe do some zone read stuff and take the ball after putting the ball in the belly of the running back. He can take it a few times and pick up some yards and create some serious damage on the defense. He has the ability to lower his head and quarterback sneak it because he's built like a freight truck. He's 6'4", 6'5", 240. Like, go look at him play and look at some of the plays that he made at Michigan and then say, okay, with some different or better coaching, what do you think he can do? That's how I looked at it. Because he wasn't coached up at Michigan. He wasn't coached up at all. Just to answer your question there, ATL VFL. Tennessee's last team today, SEC Media Days. It's going to be a packed one today. Yesterday there was 3 teams. Today it's 4. So wall-to-wall coverage there, SEC Network. I enjoyed it. I watched majority of the coverage yesterday, if not all of the coverage yesterday. It was refreshing. Man, it really was. The air was cleaner. Smelled better. Had the butterflies in my chest a little bit, in my tummy a little bit. It's almost here. I didn't say that, Neil Mafia. It's almost here. Georgia starts off today. Kirby Smart here in a little bit. This is Eastern time or Central time here. It says 10:05 Eastern time. So Kirby starts here in about 7 minutes, and then Tennessee 11:30, Kentucky at 2:30, Ole Miss Lane Kiffin at 3:55. So earlier I said that Tennessee was last. That's not the case. CBS Sports here, their schedules says Kirby first, Josh Heupel second, Mark Stoops third, and Lane Kiffin is last. So, all right, Heupel. All right, Heupel. I want to hear the pitch to recruits. That's what I want to hear. Pretty sure he's going to get the NIL question. Pretty sure he's going to get the NCAA question. And please believe that he will be prepped the same way that Ed Orgeron was prepped. Answer it once. Say you can't speak on it. And then move on. So no one can ask you the same question again. That's the best way to do it. Prep them up, Tennessee. Prep them up. That's what's going to happen. Let's go. Tomorrow, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Thursday, wrapping up the day, Missouri, Arkansas, and Auburn. Appreciate Ben for joining us first hour or so of the show there in Huntsville. And then Matt Moscona, appreciate him dropping some LSU knowledge on us today. David Waters from Gators Breakdown with Florida Gator information. We'll get an update on South Carolina. They went yesterday. There's some positive momentum there. Some energy there in Columbia. We'll hear from the Gamecocks and see what they're doing over there. It's kind of the same boat as Tennessee. A lot of rebuilding. Got to get a pretty good offensive line though. Got some quarterback with some experience to see if Beamer can put it together in this first year. Tomorrow we'll have Austin Price on, talk recruiting and recaps Tennessee's day at SEC Media Days. I hope you have a wonderful morning. For Ben McKee earlier today, I'm Jason Swain. Swain Event is fueled by Dead End Barbecue. Peace and love. We are out.